Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with all the Flat Earth Debate pre-show and after-show goodness. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below this video. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram and everywhere else that you can share the show. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, I've actually spent the initial stages of this show plugging my new Patreon that's just been set up by Ranty at a persistent request. So I'm actually on my own at the moment, so hopefully we'll be joined by somebody in the not too distant future. I will go out of my way now to actually do the things I normally do before the show starts, which is share the link, try and get some guests, rather than shilling for my own cause. But there we go. Everybody's got to shill for something, right? Well, if you say I'm wrong, I don't care, because I'm shilling for me. Why not? As I'm doing that, I will maybe go through what I went through again verbally. So, as I say, Ranty did actually set up a Patreon for me off the back of several people asking me why I hadn't got one. And I basically pointed out that I haven't got time to entertain the people of Patreon. And when Ranty pointed out that that actually wasn't necessary, it may be the case that I use Patreon for something broadcasty in the future, but at the moment I don't even have enough time to do all of the stuff that I'm currently doing, so that may not be the case. We shall see. So I've now stuck the link out in a few places on Skype. Hopefully we'll get a few guests from there shortly. Well, you can enjoy me shilling for my website. Oh, got Anthony in. How you doing, Anthony?
Yo, did you start alone?
I did. I was shilling for me.
Oh, should we set up a GoFundMe for Nathan?
I've pretty much done that in the form of a Patreon. So yesterday, Patricia got in touch and was like, "Oh, I feel like rubbish," and and I was like, "Oh, I hope you get better soon." Yay! I've got some spare time. So then Ranty called and I was like, "Actually, I'm not doing a show now. So if you do want to set up Patreon, because I've been fobbing him off, saying, I don't want to do it, I've got nothing to give them, what am I going to offer them, I've got nothing to offer, I've got no time," and that's pretty much the only thing, I can dedicate to stuff. I've got no physical stuff to give people, so all you can do is say, well, I'll give you my time by doing a broadcast, by doing a Patreon exclusive interview, by doing whatever, and I simply haven't got the time to do it. But then, again, there's going to be some bad language in this show, it's just tough luck, it's not because people are angry. So Ranty said, yeah, you don't have to offer anything, just tell them you'll get fuck all. I was like, well, okay, I might not put it in that phraseology, but if that's the case, and people are asking me to just support me because they want to, given that I've had a tough time on YouTube in January, thank God it's February now, I can put that behind me, why not do it? So I have. So there you go. People can accuse me of all the crap they accuse all the other people on YouTube that have a Patreon of being, whatever that may be. I'll find out soon, I'm sure. But if you want to support me, more importantly, go ahead and support me on Patreon.
No, it's too much money floating around on YouTube. Everyone's a victim. You're getting nothing, mate.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I said to Ranty, because originally Ranty was like, I can't remember where it was, if he was live or in a chat, one or the other, but he's like, he's got a baby on the way, and he can't pay his mortgage, and I'm like, Ranty, you're hamming this up a bit too much. People don't give a crap about that sort of stuff. They'll want to support you if they like your material, and that's really all I'd want people to support me for. Because I'm not going to name any names, but there's plenty of people out there that I'm sure you could probably name, and plenty of people in the audience will probably type into the chat room, whether I want them to or not, that e-beg because they're poor. Well, that's not, for me personally, obviously everyone's different, that's not a good enough reason. Just being poor, well, so what? You know, contribute to me if you like the show, if you like what I'm producing, if you like what I'm doing and want me to continue to do it, regardless of some financial hardship because of some bogus copyright claim or whatever befalls the show at any given time. And that does happen. So it's like, well, I actually feel totally justified in e-begging, and I'm going to smash the super chat.
Shut up.
Well, how dare you? I think it's perfectly legit to super chat, Anthony. Well, fine. I'll quieten down.
No, I think it's perfectly legit for these two just to... they've been quiet all morning, and the minute I start talking, they just seem to want to play fighting.
Fair enough.
It's like children, isn't it? I suppose. Not that I have children, but if I did have children, it's how I would imagine them to be. They've been quiet all morning. Phone rings, boom, they start kicking off.
Yeah, well, you know that's true from my kid. So she's quite happy at the moment, though. She's got the routine of me doing this show, so she doesn't totally nonchalant when I'm doing this. But during times that she knows she can have my attention, she's going to get it. So maybe that's the opposite of your dogs.
Yeah. Have you had the pleasure of catching up with Jamie's most recent video?
Who's Jamie?
Jamie Brown.
Oh, okay. No, I don't watch Jamie Brown. Sorry. But tell me all about it.
Alan B sent me a message saying, Jamie Brown's done a video on you. I said, really? Thought, not heard of... I've not seen sight nor sound of him for a long time. And sure enough, there was a video there. And it was to do with last night's hangout. And it was to do with basically dumbass Phil, the physics guy, that's not really a physics guy, that's a deceptive guy that deceives people into thinking that you can have a density gradient when you're looking horizontal in the atmosphere to justify why he did ray tracing lines that were all curves. You can't have a density gradient when it's horizontal, right? Because the density is basically the same. It's only a density gradient when it's vertical. And that would give you your lines as you've got an angle. As you start getting, the more of an angle you get going from vertical towards the horizontal, yeah, you're going to get a curve. But when you're looking dead vertical, there's no refraction or there's no density gradient. It's just it is a gradient, but it doesn't create the light to bend when it's dead vertical. It just slows it down, but there's no angle of incidence. So therefore, there's no opposing angle. But it's the same when you're horizontal as well. When you're looking straight through the density gradient, but it's dead horizontal, you're looking through a constant there. It's whatever the density is at the time, whatever elevation you're at, it's constant. And it's described as from point to point, it varies from straight. Well, varying from straight is like a little bit up, a little bit down, a little bit up, like waves. But for some reason, Jamie thinks that I was arguing that curves were the same. Curves were not the same as bend. And that's not what I was arguing at all. So what I've done, I've snipped out all the times that this point was addressed in the last hangout. Literally, there was like 20 times when I said it, and I don't think I actually said the word bend once. I might have said it once or twice. But my point is that deviating from straight isn't a curve. Deviating from straight is best described as a wave. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down, but the following principle is straight. So it's like you might get two that go up and then like three that come back down and then one that goes up and then another one that goes down. But overall, they're following a straight line, but deviating from straight. But for some reason, he thinks that I was arguing that bend and curve are not the same. Well, of course, the bend and curve are the same, but I wasn't arguing that. I was arguing that curve is not the same as deviating from straight. They're different. That was what I was arguing.
So he's a full-on globe head then, because that's a globe head argument right there, right?
Well, yeah, it's just literally. I don't know. It is a globe head argument, but I can't think like a glober anymore. So I don't know how. It's just obfuscating language to try and make your point, or try and dilute my point, or to try and make your position appear stronger than shit. Because that's what it was. He was trying to argue that there's a density gradient when you're looking horizontally through the atmosphere. No, there isn't. Idiot.
When you say looking horizontally, you mean when you're panning left and panning right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, looking horizontal. So you're looking horizontal to the horizon. If we live on a ball, right, then the curve would be curving behind your horizon and bending down. But then the atmosphere follows that. So that would be a gradient, but it would be a gradient that gets less dense. And we know that light will bend into the less dense material and away from the norm because they need it to get more dense as it's going through the atmosphere so that it can curve around the back of the ball. But what actually happens is the atmosphere follows the curve of the Earth with it. So the light's going into a less dense medium. So that'll bend away from the norm, and that'll bend up from the observer's perspective, not down.
I hate this. Do you know why I hate this?
It's like the pendulums argument from yesterday. It's like it becomes about the words.
Well, no, not really. The reason I hate it is because what you're detailing and what the audience is hearing is details about Snell's law and how actual refraction will change the course of light. Right? That's what you're talking about, correct?
Sorry, say that again.
So you're talking about the application of Snell's law through a gradient change as opposed to a medium change, but nevertheless, we'll leave that bit of pedantic semantics behind us and just go to the fact that you're detailing what actually happens with light, correct?
Correct.
Right. That's not what they do. So when they're talking about refraction, it's a con, it's a trick, because they're not talking about refraction. They're talking about terrestrial refraction. So this bending that you're detailing is the effect that they detail mathematically as expressed as 7/6R, and that has a name. That's called terrestrial refraction, and it's a mathematical presupposition based on the radius of Earth at 7/6 of said radius. So it's nothing to do, literally nothing to do with the atmosphere and what's happening with light, sod all to do with any of that. It's just something they arbitrarily apply to their presupposition of a ball Earth and call refraction, mistakenly, because it's not refraction, it's terrestrial refraction, the bending of light around the presupposition of a sphere. Where it annoys me is when they do it, and you, I'm not annoyed at you, don't get me wrong, I wasn't yesterday, just for anybody who might have thought that was the case. It's frustration, not annoyance at Anthony, as much as that's how I actually said it. It's frustration at the fact that they're talking about atmospheric effects and what the light may or may not do. It's like, so what? Your mathematics is just 7/6R. So who cares what the light's doing? That's not what you're going to do with the mathematics. You're going to call it that and pretend it's that. And pretend that's the reason you're applying 7/6 of the begging the question fallacy that is the radius of Earth. But that doesn't mean it is. And it's not. They deal exclusively in terrestrial refraction, a begging the question fallacy on steroids. What you're talking about, and perfectly reasonably so because it's a real thing, is refraction.
Yeah, I think what Phil's done with his bendy light nonsense, he's claimed that he's had to bend the light beyond all recognition to explain the what we see with regards to the Isle of Man, for example, Blackpool Tower, for example. And that's because we don't live in a ball. But what he's claimed is he's flipped it. He said, well, it's because light doesn't bend the way that you say it does. It bends this way according to my simulator. And I said, I don't care what your simulator says. Well,
that's the thing. His simulator's based on R, isn't it?
Yeah, it's based on R, and it's based on bendy light.
Right, so the first thing you need to do, Phil, is that very fundamental principle that you've based your model on and based the refraction that your model is based on is prove the thing that you start with, the radius. So Phil would no doubt assert that if he gets it right, it's somehow confirming that the Earth is the same as his model. Well, no, Phil, because you're starting with your outcome. You're starting with radius. Your model's a ball. So you're begging the question before you do a damn thing. And when you get to the refraction, you fudge it so far beyond recognition, it's even beyond your own begging the question on steroids of 7/6R. So you're just manipulating those numbers based on the begging the question that the Earth is a sphere to make it work on your model. Well, we don't live on a model, and it doesn't work in your model, and you're having to fudge the maths that you're presupposing to begin with just to get it to look right. Well, who cares? At this point, it's so farcical that I'm prepared to discount all models, and I do.
Yeah, but the worst thing is, though, even when he does what you've just described, which is it's farcical, he also asserts that because we have a density gradient...
Hold on a sec. Hey, Paul. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Paul.
I'm just muting myself so you couldn't hear it.
That's all good. Just want to say hello. Just make sure you're not a troll. Good to have you.
So the other thing he does that's fallacious is totally the wrong. It's the opposite position to what is actually the case. Yes, the atmosphere is a density gradient, but it's only a density gradient when you're vertically moving or when you're looking off vertical. But when you're looking off horizontal, you're not looking through a density gradient. You're looking through what is basically the same medium because there's no variations, but for minuscule ones, which is measured in millibars. You like millionths? Remember that phrase, millionths?
Hold on a sec. Hey, P.
Hello.
Good to have you. So millibars.
Which P is that?
P Mars.
P Mars.
This is an awkward silence.
I don't think Riley likes me very much.
Yeah, don't want to interrupt your conversation.
Shout out to Life is Short in your in the live audience. Let's get it right. So you can probably see if you're watching this on the re-up on Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980. There's a chap in there called Life is Short, and he's just done a video with Ranty. I didn't actually realise. I did know he'd done it. I just didn't make the connection that it was the same person. So shout out to you, Life is Short. Excellent video that you did on the diffraction limit and the horizon and all the other good stuff that you detailed. So superb. Check out his video. If you're in the live chat now, click on the 3 dots next to his name, go to his channel, subscribe to him. Life is Short. Anybody on the panel check out that video?
I have not.
I've not. I'm trying to find it now.
So yeah, I plugged him a couple of days ago, or maybe yesterday, I forget which, and Ranty was on Skype to me going, I found him first! I found him first! Yeah, that's always the way when you get a good producer of material. The people who, it's like the Math Powerland syndrome. I was here first. I saw him first. I saw how good he was with his flat earth info. Well, come on then, you two. You've silenced my other panel guest, so you must have something to say. P or Paul?
The Earth is a sphere.
Oh, yeah.
I think flat Earth is fun entertainment.
Is that the end of P Mars?
Yeah. To be honest, I think his overall behaviour is terrible, and I'm not prepared to condone it by allowing him to speak with me. So it was either a case that I would drop, or just kick P and block him so we can't rejoin. So I decided to be selfish, kick P and block him so we can't rejoin, because I don't think he contributes anything other than drama, nastiness, division, name calling, shite. I've never heard him actually have a decent conversation on topic. But I've heard and seen him pawn bomb people, ruin hangouts, basically smile and smirk and grimace in your face while you call him whatever you think that the position is. And I've always been impartial. I'm not particularly keen on him, but I remind myself of this pawn bombing incident that was caught on camera, and all those times that he's denied pawn bombing anybody. Yeah, he's always been around the hangout, in chat, in the hangout, on the panel, but somebody gets pawn bombed, and he's always had the benefit of the doubt. He probably did pawn bomb Sean Hufford. So I can't stick around while he's on the panel. It was either him or me, and I decided that I'd block him and kick him. So apologies for being selfish, guys, but I'm just not prepared to entertain a dickhead, and that's all I see him as. I'm sorry.
Well, I appreciate you just saying that for the audience, but you don't have to justify yourself to me. I've got absolutely no control over it.
I'm not.
Fair enough.
I'm not. I'm defending myself to the audience that may criticise me for being selfish. Right,
That's what I thought you were doing. That's fair enough. That's exactly what I thought you were doing.
Yeah.
The
other thing is, pardon?
I said all are welcome.
Yeah, apart from the odd one or two. I tell you another interesting thing. Did you see Slice Barkane's most recent video?
No, I don't watch Slice Barkane.
No, but he's actually doing a reasonable shout out at what seems on the face of it a legitimate like test for curvature of the Earth.
Oh yeah. Oh cool. Okay.
I'm supporting it, not financially, but I'm supporting it because it's always our side that are trying to prove this kind of stuff, and it's nice to see somebody on their side. And I didn't criticize it in any way. I'm going to wait until he's done it, and then we'll criticize it. But basically, yeah, I think that his attempt is valiant, and we should all be aware that Slice Arcane is trying to measure the curvature of the Earth, because it's going to be really interesting to see how he interprets his results, and to see how he to see how he behaves, really. So
yeah, I've always credited Sly with being the best clown at the Ball Earth Circus, and while that's obviously derogatory, you know, tongue in cheek, you know, hats off where he does stuff. So yeah, we'll obviously highlight where it's wrong. So the last quote unquote experiment that he did was looking at the moon and doing triangulation with it, basically, and he showed how the triangulation didn't seem to match up. In other words, they seemed to not be lining up with the positions, and then he strawmanned the hell out of flat Earth, said this is how it would line up on a flat Earth. But what he didn't do was then show how terrible that exact same measurement structure would have worked out if you pushed the distance of the sun out to vast distances, right? Well,
yeah,
he didn't show that bit, even though it would have absolutely crapped all over his model. He just left it as, well, the reason it doesn't measure and line up is because it's not flat. And it's like, well, no, that's a total misrepresentation. You'd have to now show that those inaccurate measurements, regardless of whether or not you insert R, inserting R is not going to make it suddenly get better. You know, far from it. But he didn't insert R. He didn't even beg the question. He just strawmanned flat Earth and said, this is how the AE map would line up. It doesn't line up. And it's like, okay, well, it won't line up on a sphere either. You're not going to be able to perfectly triangulate it if the people haven't got a match across the whatever surface area they're covering it over. You know, presumably a fairly big surface area. But yeah, like I say, it didn't make any difference. If it doesn't work on one, it won't work on the other. But he just didn't show it not work on the globe, was my point. Anyway, we'll see. So his measurement, as he detailed what he's going to actually do?
He's going to get a load of see-through tubing, plastic see-through tubing, spanning over a whole mile. And obviously we know how much it's supposed to curve over a mile, 8 inches per mile squared, right? So that'll form an arc. So it should bulge in the middle by, would it be 8 inches over it? Because he said in his video 4 inches, so he's obviously cut it in half.
Yeah, the bulge. So yeah, okay. So
the bulge will be half, right? So what he's planning on doing is filling it all with water, putting it every X amount of intervals, and filling it up with water so that you can measure it. And then basically, the levels will find their own level. And he's right; they will find their own level, at least on a small scale. I don't know if it's right to say it will on a big scale, but regardless, it's interesting to see what his results will be, because a mile's worth of piping is not going to be cheap. But it would be cool if you kept this hardware so that it could be tested in other places, like stick it all on a pallet, for instance, and then you could courier it off with a courier company, and it could go anywhere then, couldn't it? And you could repeat it all over the place and then prove whether or not it does or does not do what they think it does.
So he's building a mile-long spirit level.
Imagine the teeth on a comb. Each vertical is going to be filled with water, and it'll all be connected. And then each one basically it'll either be dead level, which we know it will, or it'll curve, which we know it won't. But he's saying it's only going to curve by 4 inches. Yeah, you tell a woman that 4 inches isn't a lot. So I'm fully supporting it, not financially. I don't think that any flat earther should support it financially, but we should all support them, because if the ballers believe that they live on a sphere, then this is how they should be able. This may prove sphere, may not, but it may, and I actively and positively support it, just not financially.
Yeah. So Rune Thornton says 4 inches makes all the difference? ?
Well, 4 inches over a mile is supposed to be the expected curve rate. So either it will be 4 inches higher in the middle, or it won't. One or the other. And I'm sure. I mean, to be honest, I'd like to go over and watch him setting it up, because I'd even help him, because it's something that I would be interested in doing. But I don't think he'd invite me with a 10-inch barge pole or 10-foot barge pole. But maybe the invitation is there, Sly. I'll come over and help you if you wish.
Okie dokie. Well, shout out to Slice Barcane.
Refracted. Shout out Refracted.
Indeed.
What's the current position with the number of copyright strikes, Nathan? Are they dropping off yet, or are they still there, or what?
Oh yeah, well I wouldn't be doing this now if they hadn't, to a certain extent. Not all of them have though, no, so I'm not particularly in a better position, which is why at the beginning of this show, before the live bit went out, I was explaining that my workload has massively increased, hence me not having time to do a great deal on Patreon, if anything at all. Or my reluctance to even start a Patreon was based on the fact that I don't have time to dedicate to it. But that's just got worse. So, you know, by having to work around about 10 copyright strikes, maybe it's less than that, I'll have to double check, but around that number, yeah, I'm still limited in what I can do on YouTube. But, you know, I've worked around it at the detriment of my time and sanity to a certain degree, because I'm going to burn out. You know, anybody who's worked on YouTube, and you see it all the time, people get really into it. Ranty's going to suffer this if he keeps, you know, he's even like, you know, he's kind of semi-competitive with you about subscribers. It's like, well, that's good, you've just got monetized, you've got a new sort of found enthusiasm for it, but there's a danger that you burn out. In other words, you just do too much. There's been a few examples of that in Flat Earth. I don't want to shame anybody with, you know, with specific examples, but yeah, it is easy to burn out. So off the back of that, I said to you at the beginning of this week, look, I might end up taking the weekend off and just like republishing the day before show on Saturday and Sunday, so that there is at least something going out. But I forgot yesterday to start that process. That said, it's now easier. So I've got into a routine. Yes, it's a lot more work than if I was just streaming and then once I press stop, that's it. You know, I'm done. That's far from the case now. I have to publish it on the website. I publish it on 2 different YouTube channels. Excuse me. And then I have to baby those chats and e-bag in them, which I'm not going to lie, that's what I've been doing, because it was a tough month in January. So, you know, if anybody's going to criticise me that, screw you, I don't care. But yeah, so it's just a lot more work. I've forgotten the point. What was the point of all this?
You were talking about, I don't know, actually. I'm half listening.
Yeah, me too. I've made myself bored.
It's fine. I'm just responding to a couple of comments on that video I've just uploaded now about Jamie. Patricia said, weren't you his friend on a personal level who tried to help him with social anxiety? Didn't you meet his family? I took him to Lewington meet with Nathan, and then I fell out with him because I was in one of his hangouts and there was Pete Shea, a guy called Aeon, I think that's how you pronounce it, Aeon, and some other plant pot that were all arguing whether Patricia was male or female or not. And I was like, you're all a bunch of dickheads. And the authority for it, the evidence was the word of Antonio. And I'm like, you fucking kidding me? That's the word of man that's got us in this mess in the first place with Flat Earth. You don't take anybody's word as gospel. Yeah, you take it with a pinch of salt and it may actually be true, but it doesn't prove that it is true. And that was my position. And I was like, Jamie, I can't believe that you're allowing this level of attack from these 3 dickheads on this topic, because even if it was A or B, it doesn't change it means nothing. It's not on topic. It's got nothing to do with the discussion, and it's just drama. And afterwards I heard him say words to the effect of, yeah, he keeps going on about evidence, doesn't he? I'm not having any of that. And I'm like, how can we have this conversation without evidence? You have to have some evidence. So I fell out with him as a result of it. So make sure you go and like my video and dislike it if you dislike it. In fact, dislike it twice.
I've got to agree with Tim Osman on this. So he describes the trans investigations as the bottom of the barrel in conspiracy terms. You know, yeah, truthers and 9/11 truth seekers and all that, they might get a bit of stick as conspiratards from the normies, but trans investigations, come on, that's really bottom of the barrel stuff.
Nonsense. I mean, there are some people that, I mean, look at Brenda, for example. Does it change anything? No. She's all right with it, it seems. Whatever she is or is not, who cares? I don't care whether she's bloke or not. I don't care whether Sean Ufford's bloke or not. At the end of the day, my view is, if it's a ball, it's a ball, it's a ball. And it's clearly not a ball. I don't care who's saying whether it's a ball or not.
Just for context, so Sean Hufford presents as half male, half female, and Brenda is let's get the terminology right. She's a transsexual, so she has transitioned from male to female. However, She comes on the panel infrequently recently, but used to be a bit more regular. And that, apart from arsehole trolls that would come on randomly, it never got discussed from memory. It was a non-issue. In other words, what we discussed with Brenda was the shape of the Earth and her arguments for the shape of the Earth. And sometimes we'd discuss the fact that she would get into atheist versus whatever religion she's debating. I don't know the details, but those are the sort of things we'd discuss. Not her transitioning, because who cares? That's basically, if it's used in Hi Flat Earth. Hello. If it's used in terms of the debate, then it's just an ad hominem attack. So it's a fallacy to even really bring it up. People did, I'm not going to lie, people did attack her with that on the debate, and they'd get kicked for it because it's not on topic, it's not needed, and it doesn't serve to win an argument by attacking somebody's gender. It's also against YouTube terms of service for good reason. So, people get their channel shut down over this. So, there's a reason why you don't attack people's gender. Yeah, you can look at me as some sort of PC. I'm not, I don't care either way. If I get the terminology wrong and someone corrects me, I'll go, I'm sorry. If it offends you, then I don't want to do that. However, it's not on topic. It's not relevant to our subject here, is it? In the slightest. Yet you see flat earthers doing trans investigations on their fellow flat earthers, and it's just sad.
It is. And whilst Nathan's got noise in the background, I'll just remind people of something else that was really rather interesting. I've said in the past that there's more evidence for Noah's Ark than there is for gravity, for instance. I was watching a program. I saw something pop up on my feed, and it said opening the tomb of Jesus Christ, or opening the tomb of the Christ family. And I'm not religious at all. I don't mind anybody having a religion. I don't subscribe to any myself. I used to when I was a kid because I had to, but as an adult, I'm more impartial. I don't have a disagreement with anybody with religion, but I don't push it either. However, when I saw this Christ thing, I was like, that's interesting. Let's have a look at that. And basically what had happened is they'd uncovered, some building company had uncovered what looked like some kind of archaeological dig somewhere in Jerusalem or whatever, when they got the diggers out and the bulldozers out. And this was back in 1980. And I thought, I'm going to have a watch of this. And sure enough, there is some kind of tomb that's underneath all this rubble and mud whilst the diggers are all there. And they excavated it to find that there was actually a tomb there and doors and stuff. And they were looking at all the hieroglyphic style decorations, trying to see if there were clues there. And when they got inside, there was this big fish, and there was a bloke that was coming out of its mouth. And that depiction is obviously Jonah coming out of the belly of the whale, presumably. There was a load of fish symbols, as in the fish symbols that you see on the back of people's cars. There was that kind of symbology in there, and it's clearly Christian depicted. There are Christian depictions of this tomb is filled with depictions that are clearly Christian. And I was watching it, I was thinking, that's really interesting. That it's obviously really, really old. And they reckon that it was dated around 2,000 years old. And they reckon that it's Christ's tomb. Now, I don't care if it's Christ's tomb or not. But what it got me thinking was parallel to Flat Earth. It's kind of like saying, if you think that you found Christ's tomb, right, or the family of Christ's tomb, it's kind of like ballers when they get a little bit of horizon dip at the through the HUD on the plane, or they get a little bit of bendy bridges or a little bit of something else. Well, the Christians find a tomb, and it looks like it might be Christ's tomb, and they release a video proving Christ's tomb. And if you're Christian, you'll probably accept that it's probably Christ's tomb, and therefore you've got evidence to prove that Christ's tomb is in Jerusalem, where it should be, apparently. But it's no different to ballers when they get their evidences. And everybody points out to ballers, that's not proving curve, that's not proving gravity, that's not proving axial rotation. But they believe it is because they've got some evidence, right, that they think supports it. Well, it's the same thing. I could equally argue that I can present evidence for Noah's Ark. I can present evidence for Jesus Christ's family's tomb. Does that mean that all these things are true? No. It just means that you've got an interesting piece of evidence, but the bigger picture may not be true. So basically, it's an affirming the consequence, if you want, or begging the question, if you want. But it's logically flawed. It doesn't prove the point in hand. If it actually is Noah's Ark, or if it actually is Christ's tomb, there's a totally different story there. It might be, but it could also be Job's tomb, because Job was the one that was inside the belly. So it might not be Christ's at all. But the point is that there's more. I like the saying that there's more evidence for Noah's Ark than there is for gravity, because there is. You can look up and find evidence to support Noah's Ark, but there is nothing to prove gravity. A couple of balls in a shed, that's the best it gets. Well, Einstein replaced all that with mathematical construct that everybody has to now accept and believe, and he quantified it to be, what was it, parts in a trillion. Trillion's got 12 zeros. So I would rather be a fundamental Christian and support the idea that there's an ark and there's Christ's tomb, even though it might not be, but at least there's something tangible there that I could legitimately and reasonably argue, well, this is Noah's Ark. But you guys have got absolutely nothing for gravity. And the bits that you do cling to...
Hold on, I've got to correct that. Come on,
hang on. It's no better than a Christian fundy claiming that he's found Christ's tomb. Go on, Nathan.
Just to say, come on. Einstein spent at least 10 years thinking about it.
Yeah. He must have been thinking about all these. I think that Einstein spent 10 years thinking about it, because somewhere in amongst his thought process, he must have predicted that the internet would exist, that there would be people that challenged it, and Nathan Oakley's debate show would probably come to the conclusion that he might be wrong and challenge it someday, and he must have been preempting that somehow. And we'll find somewhere in his textbooks and his religious stuff, we'll find somewhere some kind of caveat that we can adopt and say that he was thinking about us. And that's basically how ballers act. They get a little caveat in something that Einstein says, and then they interpret that whichever way they want. And then basically, how dare you challenge Einstein? He is my God. No, I found Jesus Christ's tomb, mate. I found Noah's Ark. What have you got to prove gravity? Nothing.
Wouldn't he be like a saint?
He would be God with a little G, wouldn't he?
Oh, shit.
Hey, Arwin.
Hello.
Betty's in chat. Betty, I didn't say, sorry, I did say Christ's tomb, but I had previously said Christ's family tomb, not his tomb. But yeah, I know. I'm not getting into the Christian thing. All I'm saying is, if one faith finds evidence that supports their religion, right, that's no different to a baller finding a bridge with a bit of dirtiness at the horizon that they call bend, and it was saying, look, I can prove Noah's Ark was true. What's the difference? Doesn't prove that Noah's Ark doesn't prove that there was actually a flood. You have to prove it was Noah's Ark, in the same way that you've got to prove that that is the curvature of the earth that you're looking at, and we know it can be explained in other ways, so it doesn't prove it.
Hey,
Hey, Chocolate.
Good morning, guys.
Chocolate.
You.
I've got something to discuss, maybe something through the panel. We could process it. What would be, Nathan's always asking, what's the proof of R? And, I was just doing a quick search looking at what they would prove. And obviously, the only thing, everything I see is either, like we've always said, presupposition, or just using math to accomplish that task. What would be the scientific way to prove R? In a way, kind of saying, look, if you want to prove it, this is the best way to prove it.
Well, you wouldn't scientifically, you'd measure it. It's a mathematical thing, which is impossible. But do you know where they've derived it from? It's not scientific, but...
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, it's the sun's path, so it's the presupposition of sphericity. So they watch the sun and then say, well, actually, that path that it has taken is on the outside edge, the widest edge of a sphere, as opposed to it's going up, potentially, I don't know what the sun is, but potentially it's just going above your head in a circle. Again, if you presuppose it's a physical thing. But they've presupposed that that's tracking the outside edge of a sphere when they make that logical extrapolation that that path of that sun is traversing a sphere. So it ultimately always will be. There is no ground zero that you'll find that somebody's dug to the middle, and there is no, it's not a scientific question.
And conversely as well, when you see the sun setting or rising, you assume that the Earth's rotating to that will be the proof of Earth rotation, but it's not, because again, it can be explained by other methods. And if it was Earth rotation, it's 15 degrees an hour, and we should be able to detect that. And there is no evidence that proves that the Earth moves. The only evidence is that there's a fiber optic gyroscope that measures the light interference, and we already see the lights in the sky moving at 15 degrees an hour. So we know that the lights are moving, and the fiber optic gyro doesn't support the idea that the Earth's spinning. It only supports the idea that the lights are moving, and we know that already. We already know that. We need to try and prove that it's the Earth that's spinning that's causing the sunset.
Simply said, there's no way to prove R without taking a tape measure and measuring a circle around the equator, and then going around Antarctica and measuring a circle. And
well, to be honest, if you think about it, right, there is one company that could, if they really wanted to, provide credible, repeatable evidence of R. They could strap a camera to a rocket and send it high enough so that we can see the whole Earth in one go. And I know that there's a video out there saying that you could never see the Earth in one go, but they could actually show us one cut, high quality, no breaks in feeds, show us what happens when you get high enough and high enough and high enough, and show that Earth zooming away from us like the way it does in Google Earth. And if we didn't have that company, that's what people would be asking for. But we do have that company, but we don't have that evidence. And I find that repugnant, personally. That's one of the reasons why I'm not a ball earther, because that evidence should exist and it doesn't.
The funny thing is the people who do believe that company aren't the ones that ask them for that evidence. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
But that's a problem. So your implication, I'm sorry, I'm on your back a lot today, Anthony, I'm really sorry. But your implication is that they could provide that photography of the Earth doing a full rotation in space. Well, they can't provide that photography, and the reason is simple. The medium that they claim to be travelling to, were they to go and get that imagery of the Earth rotating in space, is a fake medium. So in space, outer space, the vacuum, is a fake medium. You can't have gas pressure without a container. So they will never be able to produce a photo from a fake medium if the medium isn't possible.
And what I'm trying to say is it's not really about the evidence that they've got to prove, like Christ's family tomb. It's the evidence that they don't have that proves the curve, because they could do it, but that evidence doesn't actually exist. Now, I know that they're going to say pictures from space. No, I can. Do you know what? We can all tell that the pictures from space are composites. The pictures, yeah, they're getting better and they're getting more accurate now, so that they don't appear that way, and they're going to get better as time goes by. But they're still composite images. Just stick one HD camera on a rocket, fire it up there in a straight line, not in a bend that comes back down again, in a straight line, and show us what happens. Because you only need to escape.
But you've just ignored me. Fire up the rocket where?
Listen, I know. I'm begging the question. I know.
No, just go on. Where they're firing the rocket up to?
Straight up, so that you'd be perpendicular to the center of the Earth. And if you get to escape velocity, which a rocket easily does, then you should escape Earth's gravity and you should end up in space. And that's what we should see. But they don't do it.
So space, that's where they're going. That's the location.
Space might be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
Well, yeah. So there is no space. The medium is fake. You can't have pictures from a fake medium now, can you? Hello, Alan.
Hello, boys. Tony, what's wrong with composite images? You use them for the Isle of Wight.
I've never used them for the Isle of Wight.
You use them as evidence.
I've never once used composite images for the Isle of Wight.
Who did then?
I don't believe anybody. I don't believe anybody did. Does anybody remember anybody using composite images for the Isle of Wight observations?
Isle of Man?
What the hell is Isle of Wight?
Well done,
damn.
mate.
I was about to say I've actually got an observation of the Isle of Wight, but there we go.
Well, there might be one somewhere, but...
Yes, the Isle of Wight is available for holidays for all families. Sorry about that. It's been a long day.
Well, we didn't use it to make any contentious points, did we? We were just saying lighthouse. I know that there were some contentious points about how much of it we should see, but the composite wasn't like we weren't trying to prove that the Isle of Man was physically there, or that it was the way that it was imagined in my mind. We were just doing it to improve what we could see, but we weren't trying to prove that there was something there when the bank might not actually be something there. Do you know what I mean?
I'm visualizing you wriggling.
Yeah, I'm wriggling. No, but I don't see any problem with using the composite when it's not a contentious matter. The Isle of Man is not contentious. It was just one lighthouse.
How convenient.
Yeah. I see your point, though.
No, I don't. I agree with your retort, actually, Anthony. So if you want to go and replicate what was eventually composited into that image that was used to identify various things on the Isle of Man, then you could go and take the exact same images and do it yourself. But all we have is someone else's composites that we cannot recreate with NASA, and they're taking the pictures from a fake medium.
So you don't believe space?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Alan, what would be the problem of using a composite that you made off of your own video?
Well, we wouldn't accept it because we're deniers, right? We're evidence deniers. And it works the other way around. We don't really accept it when Soundly shows bendy water. So there's always going to be that element of, but if it's repeatable,
hold on a second. Sorry, bear with me. Hi, Yida. Is it Yida? Need to mute your watch page, my friend. Causing shitloads of feedback.
He's got to be a newbie.
Yeah, I've muted you, Yida. You need to mute the watch page before you join. But if you can take yourself off mute and just say hello, that'd be great.
Hello, lads.
Yo, yo.
Hello.
Hello, lads.
Very quiet.
I'm going to turn him up. I'm on the case. I'm on the case.
Come with the show.
Are you in the toilet, mate? It sounds like you're having a poop.
Don't start, Anthony.
Oh, is that Paul?
No,
Who's that?
I'm not telling you. You got to guess.
Do I know you personally, or do I know you off the Hangouts?
You know me from the Hangouts. No, not from the Hangouts. You know me from chat.
Oh, right. So you must be AJN?
You got it. Bang on there, then.
Hey.
Hello, lads.
Hey, Jim, what's up, man?
I recognise that twang.
Glad you jog on, lads, and I'll listen.
No, actually, for our international friends like Chocolate and stuff,
Yeah,
you can give them a good Scouse accent, right?
I'll try.
Give us a story. Tell us what you did last time you went the match.
The match? Now you're talking. God.
Just give us a story. Just start talking.
The last game I went to.
Yeah, go on.
The derby, actually, 2 years ago.
And who won?
Liverpool.
And is that your team, or are you blue?
No, I'm a red.
Hey. I'm hoping you tell us a bit of a, give us a paragraph so that we can hear that Scouse twang ooze out of you.
You don't milk it, lads.
Come on, Chocolate's never heard of Scouser.
Nathan, get the show back on track.
Only maybe in a movie or something, but I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, but Scousers in movies never sound like Scousers.
Don't trust the Beatles, that's all I'm saying.
All right, let's get it back on track.
So go ahead, lads.
That's cool, AGM. It's good to talk to you, man.
Down, fella. Down.
I always see you in the chat. You make me laugh. You're a funny dude.
Bit of a devil, mate.
So yeah, so to bring this back on track. So yes, you can't have pictures from a fake medium.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying, Alan. Pictures from space are not credible evidence. If I'm not saying that we should be able to go and repeat them, but they need to be repeatable, but they need to be credible as well. And the stuff from NASA, if you look at Himawari, if you think that the Himawari satellite claimed satellite footage imagery is credible, well, you are the victim of being brainwashed, because it's obvious that stuff's not real. And then they say, well, it is kind of real. We have to composite them together from 3 or 4 different layered colours and put them all together to make one picture. Really?
How is it not real, Tony?
Do you not feel that addresses your point then, Alan?
I'm just discussing stuff with Tony. What makes you think it's not real?
Because if it was real, it wouldn't need to be composited. You could just show it the way you got it off the camera without any. It's like falsifying evidence or faking evidence. If I went and put a lighthouse somewhere where it shouldn't be, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with that?
How does the imagery come off the Himawari?
Apparently, it comes off in 3 layers. They say, or might be 4. Well, isn't it magenta, cyan, and whatever? I'm not quite sure what colours they are. But
I think you'll find it's RGB.
Yeah, something like that. I think it's 3 or 4 different layers. They say, and then they put them all together. Well, what are the layers? Hang on. How do we validate that the layers are coming from something that's being transmitted from space?
Take your wife's camera, take a picture, put it in Photoshop, and look what the layers are. They're exactly the same.
I understand what the
Hold on a
claim
second.
is.
Can I just ask? Just need a bit of clarity. So, what's he taking a picture of? The same thing the Himawari is, yeah?
No, just any image that he.
Sorry, I thought we were
knows
talking
to
about the
be true.
Himawari. He's replicating the
not the
Himawari,
bad word.
right? He's replicating the Himawari, so he's going to go and
No,
take
he's
what
not.
that takes.
No, he's not. Stop being difficult, Nathan.
Hold on, sorry. The thing that we are contesting is the images produced from the Himawari, and you're saying in order to replicate what the Himawari does, go and take a picture of... Can you shut up, please, Alan? You're saying go and take a picture of something that's not what the Himawari sees. So, okay, I'll just give you an equivalent. I'm going to give you some pictures of Narnia. Okay, Alan? Now, to confirm that they are legitimate, I want you to go and take a picture. Shut your mouth, I am talking. So, I'm going to give you pictures of Narnia, and you are going to go and take a picture of your backyard to make sure that the camera composition is the same, and that will verify Narnia exists, won't it, Alan?
Unfortunately, that's a straw man, Nathan, because what me and...
Oh, really? Well, I say the medium of space is fake. We've not gone there, and we can't replicate what the Himawari does. Now I'm giving you an equivalent of somewhere else that's totally made up, like
We're talking
space.
about the technology of red, green and blue.
Yeah, that's what will be in the pictures that I produce of Narnia. Hello? That will be in the pictures produced of Narnia. So thus proving Narnia. So that will prove... So the technology in the camera will prove Narnia exists, will it, Alan? Like space is being proved by the same standard.
Do you not trust RGB?
Do I trust RGB? Well, that's what the composite will be made of when I produce the pictures of Narnia. So you trust RGB, therefore my pictures of Narnia are real.
Toddle off and get me the pictures of Narnia then.
Yeah, I'll do that. And you'll accept them if they're RGB.
Tony was saying the technology...
So you will accept the pictures by your own standard that you are asking Anthony to accept the pictures from Himawari. If they are produced in RGB, you will accept that Narnia exists, correct?
No.
Oh, really? Well, that's the standard you're giving me to accept that space exists.
I was talking to Tony about...
I don't give a crap who you're talking to. The standard you're asking my audience... Let's just shut him up. The standard you are asking my audience to accept is that if the pictures conform to the standard that's taken, alleged to be taken from the Himawari, then the medium that they're taken from is real. So I am saying if the standard is RGB for my pictures of Narnia, then by your standards, the pictures of Narnia are real. You're saying no. So what would you like to confirm that Narnia's real? Maybe to go there?
Strawman.
So confirming Narnia doesn't require going there. So we don't need to go to Narnia to confirm its existence. We can just accept photography of it.
Jesus, Tony.
Not Jesus, I'm talking to you. Do we accept pictures of Narnia without confirming it by going there?
Strawman, Narnia doesn't exist. Sorry,
Neither does space. Not a straw man. Neither does space. Space isn't real.
Says you.
Says you Narnia's not real. Have you ever been to Narnia? I've got pictures of Narnia, dickhead. I've got pictures of Narnia. So does that make Narnia real by those standards? Because according to you, if I've got RGB pictures of a fake medium, a fake place like Narnia, then that means it's real, doesn't it?
Narnia doesn't exist, you buffoon.
Space doesn't exist, you idiot.
Snap.
Space doesn't exist, you idiot.
Of course it doesn't.
Oh, really? You've been there?
Have you?
Have you been there?
Have you?
Have you been to space?
Have you?
No, I've not. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It's a second law of thermodynamics violation. It's a fake medium. It's like Narnia. It's not real. Yeah.
Be real like
Yeah.
space.
I've seen Gotham City on TV, so that must be real too.
Where's all the noise coming from?
Is it AJM?
Hey, why is space a violation of the second law of thermodynamics? Just so I know.
Nathan, this is your minute.
Oh, sorry. I'm fixing a toy. Bear with me, I'll just fix this toy. There you go.
Thermodynamics, Nathan.
Sorry, what's my minute?
Why is space a violation of the second law of thermodynamics?
Oh, you can't have gas pressure without a container.
Awesome. Thank you.
You should challenge it a little bit, Earth Flattener. You might learn like why it's an issue.
Maybe in a minute. Hold on.
He's only grumpy with Alan. Oh, and can I just say, Alan, I didn't agree with you. I actually agreed with Nathan. Space can't exist because the reasons given. I wasn't agreeing with you on this occasion. Sorry.
Why do you think? But why do you actually think that NASA are going to put a rocket?
Alan B.
Why do you think that Hollywood would make up Narnia? Why would they do such a thing?
Are we talking about Narnia?
Because it's fake, like space.
Jesus.
Not a straw man, fake medium, fake place. You're not going to Narnia. We're not going to space.
Tony, do you not just think this is
No, Nathan, you asked why I keep bringing up Narnia. I'll say it again. Because it's... I'll say it again. Because it's a fake place. Fake, like space. Not real. Now, you think photographs, if they've got RGB colour scaling, make them real. So if I provide...
RGB colour scaling?
Whatever you want to claim is the proof that a picture...
Idiot, you don't even know what it is.
I don't care.
Shut the hell up.
I don't care. Is this a straw man, Alan? Is this a straw man you're offering? My understanding of cameras, does that prove space? Or is this a... What was the word you used? Straw man?
What it proves, Nathan...
Oh, so it's a straw man then, it doesn't prove space. So this is a straw man, Alan. It seems you're here to project your fallacies onto me. So let's not straw man me about my understanding of cameras. I don't know anything about cameras. But I don't know anything about space either. And you don't know anything about Narnia, which is clearly a real place. We've got photographs.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable, like space. That's my point. We don't believe Narnia's real. We're not going to Narnia. Nobody's going to Narnia. And nobody's going to space.
Are we done?
What, with space? Yeah, we were done with space 3, 4, for me, years ago. It's a completely fake medium. It doesn't exist. And all the people who tell you they've got pictures from there are lying to your face, Alan. And you're pathetic and stupid and don't realise that they're lying to your face and believe them and defend them, despite the fact that you've never been to Narnia, have you? You've never been to this Narnia land called space?
Narnia.
Yeah, Narnia. That's what I'm going to call space from now on. Narnia. Outer space.
Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. Space is unbelievable because to believe it, it'd have to violate the second law of thermodynamics.
Oh.
Yet you can't have gas pressure without a container. We have gas pressure, and your medium that these photos are being taken from is claimed to be a vacuum. Entropy would dictate that the gas we do experience and do have would dissipate into that vast, never-ending vacuum you think you can take pictures from. That is a second law of thermodynamics violation. That is the reason space is like Narnia, not a straw man.
Are you saying gases dissipate inside a container?
Into a vacuum.
Okay. How do we have a gradient?
Sorry, gas pressure gradient?
No, atmospheric.
Sorry, does it contain gas pressure?
Atmospheric.
So that would be pressure then?
Atmospheric.
Atmospheric what?
Do you not know?
Sorry, atmospheric what?
Do you not know?
I don't, because you're telling me it. Is it a secret, Alan? Is it a secret? Atmospheric what? Don't you want to say it? You don't want to say the word pressure.
Atmospheric pressure.
Oh, well that requires something to press on.
That's you what you're giving us, loves, Alan.
I can't hear you, lad. Speak up.
No, well.
Yeah, that needs something to press on, Alan. Doesn't it?
The Earth.
Sorry, it's pressing on the Earth at the bottom. What's it pressing on the top? Do I need to repeat the question?
Hang on, I'm just distracted.
Do I need to repeat the question?
No.
Answer it then.
You're not in charge.
I'll give you one more chance to answer my question. I'll kick you out and make room for someone else.
Oh, can I do it? Can I do it?
Yeah, you do it. Oh,
Let me ask the question again so he doesn't answer it. What is the gas pressure pressing upon at the top?
It isn't. It's pressing downwards onto the earth.
Sorry, I'll say it one more time because you're dumb. You don't understand. It's okay. He's dumb. He's old and dumb. So I'll repeat it a third time because you're old and dumb. Maybe a bit deaf. Not the bottom, old man, deaf, idiot, stupid, old man. What's it pressing on at the top? Specifically, where the region you claim there's a vacuum. Is it pressing upon a lower pressure system? Because that's an impossibility. What I call a second law of thermodynamics violation. So you now tell me what it's pressing on at the top.
Nathan, in the ocean at the top, is the pressure greater?
Sorry, in the ocean?
Sorry,
are we talking about the ocean or space? Outer space, the fake medium that's like Narnia. We're not talking about the ocean. What's the gas pressure, the atmospheric pressure? What's it
at the top or the bottom?
pressing on at the top?
In the ocean is the...
Not in the ocean. That's your last chance, asshole. Straw man using asshole. So don't come here to project your straw mans that you use onto us. Don't use straw men. We're not talking about the ocean. We're talking about a fake medium, like Narnia, that doesn't exist. Space.
Christ, somebody kicked him.
Yeah, me.
Jesus.
Because I ask him
Thank
what
you.
it's pressing, what the gas pressure's pressing on at the top, Arwin, and he takes us to the sea, because he's only got straw men and a fake medium to defend. He's got no evidence for this
Alan
fake
B's
medium of
in
space.
a really nasty mood today overall, and on my show he did that shit too. So yeah, Alan B, go fuck yourself, dude.
No swearing, please. That's in anger.
Go F yourself, dude.
Alan, don't come here wearing your pants, lads.
So the only way I'll challenge thermodynamics and the violation that is caused by space is to say that they cancel each other out. Thermodynamics and space.
Fortunately for Earth Flattener, it has just gone over the hour mark, so hopefully we'll pick that up in the break. If you're watching in the live audience, you can actually stay tuned because I'll keep this live stream going. But if you're watching on either the Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, massive thanks for tuning in, smashing the super chat, sharing and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out the links in the video description box for links to PayPal, Patreon and crypto. Massive thanks again to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Check.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with all the Flat Earth Debate pre-show and after-show goodness. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below the video, and a Patreon link as well, thanks to Anti-Flat Earth, so shout out to him. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you're currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now we are joined by, let's have a little look. Who's this? AJM, I think his name is, Sleeping Warrior, Paul, Flatten Earth, Chris, Chocolate Saying, and Arwin. Good to have you all.
Woo!
Good morning. Good morning.
Did he get cold?
Hello, all.
Yo. Did Alan survive, or was he being called?
I kicked him before the end of the last show.
Just shitting around as he does.
Yeah, it got to the point in the last show where basically Alan was asked, what's the gas pressure that we definitely do have here on Earth pressing upon at the top? And rather than answer the question, he just wanted to talk about the oceans. And the whole point of the question is to prove his fake medium of outer space, which cannot possibly exist. You can't have gas pressure without a container. There is nothing for it to press upon in their bullshit world of Sphere Earth. What it should be pressing on, a container, is actually a vacuum, a much lower pressure system that it would disperse into, leaving us with no gas pressure, meaning that the outer space they claim is where they take the pictures from is a fake medium. It cannot possibly exist. It's a second law of thermodynamics violation. You can't have gas pressure without something to press upon, the necessary antecedent, a container. And Earth, in space, does not have that. It has a vacuum, rather than a container, making space fake. Anyway, anybody mind if I go through the housekeeping? We didn't go through it on the last show. Any signs of curvature, gentlemen?
Just before we do, Nathan, just let me give an analogy for why the reasoning for this gas pressure is important. If I didn't kill the guy, if I didn't murder him, right, and I said, well, I didn't murder him, I was away on holiday at the time. If you just took me at face value and accepted it because it sounded reasonable, then you'd be a dick, wouldn't you? Because I could have killed him, but you'd have to check it to make sure first. Why would anybody accept that? Well, the lack of evidence for gravity, the necessary thing that holds the atmosphere onto the Earth, if that evidence is missing, then the evidence is, it's like saying that I was on holiday at the time and just not checking it. Because if you don't check that you're on holiday, you've got no alibi, right? You could have killed him. But not accepting gravity as an issue is a fundamental failure to appreciate evidence. Sorry, Nathan, carry on.
I didn't actually hear a word of that. My kid's making a whole load of noise. Hopefully the panel will react, though. I'm sure it was a great point, Anthony.
It was amazing.
It was a good point. And I just wanted to add that it's so funny how they continue to fall down the same rabbit hole. They use the same excuses. So you ask, how do we have gas pressure without a container? And then they go straight to, oh, how do we have the gradient? Well, then how do we have the gas pressure at all without a container? And then it goes right to, oh, but we have oceans that don't have a full container. It's like, wait a minute, we're not talking about water, guys. We're talking about gas. And it's like the same again and again and again. It's like, I don't know. It's like they're NPCs just falling into the same trap.
Yep. You can't have gas pressure without a container. You can't have a disequilibrium without a membrane of some kind. If you're going to claim gravity, then I'll claim I didn't kill him because I was on holiday and no one's going to check my evidence to support that I was on holiday. So if you believe gas pressure without checking the evidence for it and realizing there is none, then you're just basically allowing someone to get away with murder. That's literally how stupid it is.
Yeah, there's no scientific evidence of gravity, and if you're to assert that this 1 in 150 millionth, if you apply Newtonian Cavendish gravity, or 1 in 50 billionth if you apply the bending of space-time, trillionth if you apply the bending of space-time, then it's not going to defy the second law of thermodynamics. Hot will still flow to cold. The gas will still expand into whatever given space it is offered. That is what will happen, and that cannot be the case. If you have a vacuum of space, then we would not have gas pressure. It would disperse instantaneously into a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. I assure you, the second law does hold up, and unless someone can show me a violation of the second law of thermodynamics, which space is, then I'm not prepared to accept that there is a thing called outer space where they can apparently take pictures from. There is no outer space, it's a fake medium. It defies the second law of thermodynamics.
Especially while this ball happens to be rotating at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator and moving 66,000 miles per hour around the sun. It's nonsensical. Sorry.
Yeah, it's doublespeak of the highest order. They want the atmosphere to be both tethered to the Earth, in the case of the planes that don't follow any or exhibit any effects of the Coriolis effect, and then actually be detached, a second reference frame, when they want to claim that the Earth is spinning underneath the atmosphere and use it as a proof that we're spinning. So you go, okay, you've got a pendulum that demonstrates we've got 2 reference frames. You've got planes that don't exhibit any Coriolis effect. How do you square that circle? Well, we've only got 1 reference frame. Well, that's doublespeak. If you've only got 1 reference frame, you don't have a Coriolis effect. And if you don't have a second reference frame, then you don't have an Earth turning underneath the atmosphere. And if you don't have something to demonstrate the Earth's turning, it's not turning. It's just stationary as it presents itself. But they want to have it tethered. And in tethering it, it doesn't hold the atmosphere that's tethered and non-tethered next to a vacuum. It's just still going to dissipate and follow the laws of entropy and dissipate into that vacuum. Without the balloon, there is no pressure. Conspiracy Cats, 2018.
That sounds like a saying. Somebody must have said that. So that sounds like someone famous, Nathan.
Yeah, Conspiracy Cats, 2018. Or Wiggles, the gas would fill the space, 2019.
Can I play devil's advocate just for a second?
Can I say something? I mean, maybe is it me? Am I crazy? But they want to say that the pendulum, which is actually attached to the Earth, right? Because it would have to be attached to the Earth to function correctly as a pendulum, right? So that's actually attached, but that's a different reference frame. But the helicopter with plane, these things that are not actually attached to the Earth, are the same reference frame? Like, that's backward speak.
Well, they need it to be the same reference frame because it does not exhibit Coriolis. So if you were to take off in a helicopter and maintain your position above the air that you are in and just hover, then the Earth should turn underneath you if you're to have a Coriolis effect. Same with the planes. The planes take off and the Earth rotates underneath if you've got 2 reference frames. None of these things exhibit the Coriolis effect. The planes aren't deviating, they're not taking different durations, the Earth's not rotating underneath hovering helicopters. This doesn't happen. There is only 1 reference frame. Well, it's not a non-inertial reference frame, it's just not turning. It's just stationary. So to square the circles of the non-exhibits of Coriolis effect by saying it's a single reference frame, well, then you don't have a Coriolis effect. But they just go round and round and round in circles. That's all they can do. But I hope that the people who are smart enough and watching understand that when they're not conceding, it's not that they've got a winning argument. They just won't concede because they're religious zealots.
And they won't ever concede. They can't concede it.
Can I play devil's advocate just for a second on the point or the gas pressure?
Go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
I remember something I talked when I was on several shows ago before the holidays, and Anthony was talking about if you have a vacuum and you remove all the air or all the air out of the vacuum, that really hydrogen or helium, whatever, would settle at the bottom of that container at one point.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Now, if that's the case, if buoyancy and density is our gradient that we're living in, there is a potential that at the higher levels there could be, because of that buoyancy and density at the highest levels that we cannot reach, there could be lower pressure according to buoyancy and density, I would think.
Yeah.
There could also be liquids there.
Yeah, lower. What would there be at the top? Did you say lower? What? Sorry.
Pressure.
Oh, that would need something to
lower
press
density.
upon still. That definitely still needs something to press upon then. If you've got pressure, it's going to need to press. Lower pressure, you say? Oh, well, that's still pressure.
Well, I mean, it's like there. What I know, what Alan B, I guess, is what he was saying is like at the lower pressure in the ocean, that pressure is higher than at the top. So, and as we do know, that's why hot air balloons, as they go up, or not hot air balloons, but the balloons, they do pop because the pressure gets less.
Sure, but a liquid, is a different state. So a liquid isn't trying to press out in all directions randomly, is it? It's it's not got any bonds. If you're talking about gas, it's randomly trying to spread in all directions to fill the container that it's in. And if there's a never-ending vacuum, it's just going to spread out and fill that, which is our argument against it. I've got no argument against there being a gradient, and it makes logical sense that there would be, you know, given that all of the cycles that we experience do happen at the ground level. So they're going to create more gases at that point and dissipate as you go up. But there's still pressure there.
It's just less. I got you. Right.
Well, if there's pressure there, even just less, it's still got. It can't be a pressure unless, by definition, in their own maths or science, it's exerting its pressure on the walls of its container. So the question is, well, what is the container if there's a low pressure there? Because it's still a pressure. No, but it's very, very low. Yeah, it might be very low, but we still got a pressure.
Well, and I think, honestly, the other side of the coin, I mean, I agree with you. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little bit. And the other side is if the Earth is spinning, then at the equator, the centrifugal forces or the angular momentum, whatever the right term is for that, would literally take those upper molecules of air and literally throw them away.
Because of a centrifuge.
Right.
And the biggest ones would move first. So if the biggest ones are moving first, that means that you'd have to have an inversion in the atmosphere where the densest molecules are pushing outwards because they've got the most mass, and they will be displacing the lighter molecules that will be forced to the floor, because that's what a centrifuge does. The heavier stuff gets put to the edge and the lighter stuff gets put to the middle, and because that is a centrifuge. But that would mean that the lightest the atmospheric gases would be on our surface. That would be helium and hydrogen, and then nitrogen and oxygen would be up at the top. That's not what we see. So we know that that can't be the case.
Right. So there's a disproof for the spinning globe right there, just from that.
But it can only have a centrifuge if it's pushing against something to give it the backwards resistance. Otherwise, it would just disperse immediately into space.
Correct. I'm glad you had that on. That was going to be my addition as well. So yes, you've got to imply that there's a wall of a container on the outside of that centrifuge to cause the heavier gases to go to the outside, and as you say, the lighter gases to come to the surface. Or if there's nothing for it to press upon, now that's given that it's a single reference frame tethered to the Earth with gravity, so you've got the atmosphere held on, but spinning in a single reference frame, you still have the centrifugal forces that would throw the gas out into space even quicker. All of these would be negated by entropy, though. In other words, it would instantaneously disperse into the vacuum.
But this is the kind of thing that the average physics teacher doesn't tell kids. Probably has never thought about it. But now we have Conspiracy Cats, who is a physics teacher, to try and answer some of these issues. And he won't come on the show because he knows he can't answer them. But he pretends that Nathan's a nasty person and a bully. He's done it. He's done
it for Arwin. So kudos to Arwin. Arwin had him on his show and asked the question verbatim: how do we have gas pressure without a container? And he gave a very long answer that confirmed that you cannot have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon. In order to have gas pressure, you need something to press upon. Well, thank you very much, Conspiracy Cats, for that very, very clear explanation that defies space as a vacuum. Wonderful. Thank you to Arwin for asking the question. Thank you to Conspiracy Cats for answering it. Shame you couldn't answer one of the 367 times I asked, but there we go.
Yeah, he still calls Ranty for proving curvature of the Earth.
Well, he's proven that space is fake, so well done, Flaps. You've proved space is fake.
Could you give me the definition for entropy, Nathan?
When you say definition, what entropy is the effect of things flowing from, say, for the sake of argument, a high pressure system into a low pressure system, or hot flowing into cold. These things that naturally occur, and why? Well, I don't know. It's a law.
Why don't you give us the definition?
No, I mean like the units. Like, like speed is distance over time. Like, what are the units for entropy?
Who cares? Hot flows.
Who cares? You just said.
Sorry,
that,
I hadn't finished talking. If you talk over me more than twice in the show, Unorthodox, you're just not going to stay. When I start talking, shut your mouth. Okay?
There's a delay, Nathan. So
I don't
it
care.
doesn't happen perfectly.
If there's a delay, get some better equipment, you cheapskate.
Yeah, Nathan, that's not possible. You live on.
Yeah, there's no delay. I hear you perfectly clearly. So I'm talking over you because you've interrupted me. Hot flows to cold always. That's entropy.
So you don't know the units associated with entropy.
No,
Why?
and I don't need to.
You know the units
Sorry,
associated with
you've asked me a question. You've done it again. You've made a statement. You've
Are
made
you
an assertion
joking?
about what I do or don't know, and before you've given me a chance to respond, you've continued talking. Were you not educated by your mother about how to have a conversation?
Like I told you before, there's a delay, Nathan. So you don't know the units for entropy. You know the units for speed.
Units. It's an effect, you moron.
Arwen, it has units.
So I'll say it again. Hot flows to cold always. That is entropy. High
No, it's
pressure.
not.
Yes, it is.
Pressure to non-pressure.
Yes. That is the law. That is the effect. The cause is not determinable. It will happen always. It is a natural law. Okay?
So what are the units, right? You can disprove it.
Who cares? Sorry, why do you want them? What's the point that you're going to make?
Because he wants to try and mathematicize it.
That's what I was just gonna say.
No, I'm
like,
just-
you guys,
I'm- no, I was
you guys need math to be reality so bad that he can't give you a definition of entropy. You can just accept it. You have to actually, you need a formula for it to even start to make sense to you. Do you realize how
He's using it to
demented
prove
that
a
is?
point. He's using it to prove a point, Chocolate
Do you
saying.
know? Do you know what
So he's
entropy
saying
is?
he believes in entropy.
Is that a real thing? Is it a real effect?
That's not what I'm saying. Right, every time he does this and misrepresents me, I'll shut him up, tell the audience where he's wrong. So, why would you misrepresent me like this? Let's just establish before I do this. Why are you misrepresenting what I say?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
What did I misrepresent?
This is like talking to a complete buffoon.
The right word is Muppet.
You're using entropy to prove your point. You're saying because entropy is real, we can't have space. So if you're using entropy to prove your point, you believe in entropy. Chocolate Sane is saying that you
There
don't.
you go.
believe.
There he's done it again. No, I do not believe in entropy. It is a, say it for the second time, natural law. No belief required because, and to answer your question and define it, hot flows to cold always.
So what about like a refrigerator or a heat pump? Those are opposite things, right? They're flowing heat in a different direction.
You know what always means, right?
Always means always.
Yeah. So whatever example that you're going to question him with, always does the same thing. Heat will always go to cold. Pressure will always go to non-pressure.
You will never show me an example of setting down a cup of coffee and finding that when you come back, it's suddenly boiling. It will dissipate its heat to the colder environment by way of entropy. That's what entropy is.
So you don't know the units. I mean, just say it, Nathan. If you don't know the actual units, the actual real definition of entropy, just say it.
What the hell is it with units?
I've asked you
There
what's
is
the
a measurement
purpose.
for the.
Sorry, the point of the entropy point is that you can't have a gas pressure next to a vacuum. That's the point. Now, in order to make that point, I don't need to know any units. I just need to know that gas pressure will disperse into a vacuum. That's what I need to know. I do know it, and I don't know the units. Does that get you a win, or is this a straw man? I waited minimum 4 seconds for you to claim you had a delay, so I'll claim retard. Yeah, retard. Answer me, retard.
No, of course not.
Just to
Oh,
reiterate
if
that
you
point.
how to measure it. Entropy is Nathan, I'm talking
Yeah, straw man,
house.
no answer, never
If you
an
need to
answer,
measure a house,
always
you need
a
to know the
straw man,
units, right?
always moving
You need to know
on
how to
the next
actually measure it.
subject.
You don't need to know any
Units.
maths. Listen.
Don't listen to
So
the
you can
argument,
measure
Unorthodox.
entropy. You can actually measure it.
We're not trying to measure it. We're just observing what it does, and we don't need maths to observe.
He interrupted me, Arwen. I don't know what he said. I was in the middle of saying something.
Okay, fine. So you can measure entropy. Sorry, whoever's playing music, can you stop?
Yeah, but if you're talking about it, you need to know what the measurement is.
Gilder, mute or I'm gonna kick you.
I've kicked him out already. You can't play music here.
If you're talking about building a house.
Yeah. We're not talking about building a house. We're talking about space, being a fake medium.
Y'all do nothing but dance around subjects like Fred Astaire, man.
I mean, that's it there that you have no... You don't have a clue how's your entropy. You don't have a clue what you're talking about.
Unorthodox. We don't need to have a mathematical expression to define.
What am I dancing around?
We see hot goes to cold.
About
We see
what
pressure goes to
it
non-pressure.
is. It is there.
Given that you were unable-
matter how it
I'll ask my
works,
question again. He
it's
didn't
there.
answer me. He's now ignored me. So, me knowing the units, does that get you a win? Oh, someone kicked him.
Oh, he left.
Probably Arwin.
No,
No,
I think he
he
might
left.
have just fell from my internet. Oh no, did you kick him?
No, he's still there. He left.
Oh, he's just fell from internet problems. He was breaking up a little bit. Well, we'll
And
hold
even though
fire on that conversation.
I have a mobile problem too that sometimes it'll drop. I don't have a delay the way he's talking about, and I'm in America too. So
Yeah, just convenient bullshit.
Anthony.
Yes.
There.
I am, but I'm listening because the dogs are trying to get my attention. So I'm listening, but go on.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, so if we can, I'd like to circle back to your HUD display discussion that you had, I don't know, yesterday.
About,
I had some,
go on.
well,
which
about
topic?
the horizon, the artificial horizon, or the long horizon line versus the nose and all that. So I was listening, and I just, after a while, I kind of was thinking about it, and your point, it was the horizon line on the HUD display should line up with the real horizon, and it doesn't. And they say, well, that's because Earth's a ball, so the horizon falls away as the artificial plain HUD horizon rises. So the question I had was, why does it do that?
Did you see the picture though that was presented? The picture that was presented had the straight line going across, which was the artificial horizon, but its nose was angled up by the same amount from the actual horizon. And my position was, well, if the nose wasn't aimed up, then it would bring the actual horizon and the green line, white line horizon back down, because you would compensate for the tilt of the nose and bring it back down. And that is a valid point. He didn't accept it, but we couldn't see what happens when you put the nose on the horizon, because technically you start to descend, which I'm fine with. I don't care that the plane starts descending. What I care about is whether or not it lines up when you put the nose on the horizon and point it at the horizon. That's the point we were trying to get.
Right, and I got that, but the thing that I don't get, and I'm screen sharing, I don't know if Nathan can show it or you can see it if you click on my icon. The thing that I don't get then is, why is the artificial horizon, why is it higher than the quote-unquote real horizon? That either means the artificial horizon is wrong and the real horizon is here, or it's right.
No. There's an extra step that you're not missing, that you're not seeing. Can you see above the long white, long yellow line? There is like what looks like wings. It's like a V with that's the angle of the pitch of the nose of the plane. And if you'll notice, the gap between that and the line below is pretty much the same as the gap between that and the line and the actual horizon below the line. So if you were to bring that the pitch of the nose down, the horizon, because the plane's physically tilting when you tilt the plane, they tilt the nose back down, it's going to bring that artificial horizon, the white line, in line with the actual horizon. So what's happening is the plane's flying slightly nose up, and that's what that little crest or V-shaped thing is. But if you were to put that back down again onto the horizon, the white line would match the actual horizon. Do you understand?
Yeah, I get that. I think you're missing my point though. So I'll have to go here in a minute, but for sake of argument, let's say this plane is flying at quote unquote level flight, right? Yeah, the nose is up, but it's flying level. right? It's maintaining, you know, whatever, 30,000 feet altitude.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say I were to ask you then, which is correct? Is the plane electronic horizon correct, or is this horizon correct?
No, the electronic horizon is a compensation for, that's the angle the plane's, that's the way the plane is like traveling, right? But because it's nose up, it's artificially high. So if you bring the nose
so it's wrong.
down,
so it's wrong.
No, it's compensating for the fact that the nose is up. That's what it's showing you. Because if you were to put the line, if you were to put the line in the direction that the nose is pointing, it would be where the V is above. Well, that's clearly not the direction of travel, but that's the way it's pointing. So what it's saying is you're traveling you're traveling in a level line, but what you're seeing is compensated because you're looking up. That's all it's saying.
Right, but that means that if, let's say, this was fog and you couldn't see this quote unquote real horizon, okay?
Yeah.
And all you had was this display.
That's what I asked him to do. I said, could you show us what happens when you level off from climbing and you get to your level altitude that you're flying level at, and then just then compensate for the nose coming back down and see, does it bring the line down to the horizon or does it keep the line there? It'll bring the line down.
But you don't even have to do that. My point is, then this line is wrong. If you can't see this to know where this actually, quote unquote, this real horizon supposedly is, and you're relying on the electronics, right? Because it's like, let's say you're in a storm, okay? You're relying on this. Otherwise, how do you know that the real horizon is, say, 2 or 3 degrees below it? You don't. There's no indicator. This is the real horizon.
Okay, well, maybe that is the real horizon, but on both models, the horizon appears lower because when we had this was a massive fight yesterday with Phil not telling the truth about the reality, but we are looking down from very less air into more dense air, and that density gradient, because we're looking down, makes the horizon look lower on both models anyway. The issue is by how much should it be on a ball compared to how much should it be on a plane, on a level plane. So I accept what you're saying, your point, but it doesn't imply that there is drop caused by curvature unless you want it to be that way, because it is explained by an alternative explanation and it can be argued either way, and you just don't know which one's right.
Right there. So the baller argument is this line is that this horizon would rise to this line if the Earth were flat. So they're saying that the HUD display is showing you what
that's assuming there's no atmosphere. It only works on a model that's got no atmosphere to it.
Right. So my question to them would be, why is the HUD display showing me where a flat Earth should be? Shouldn't it be showing me where the round Earth should be so that my instrument and my real round Earth?
Oh, I see your point. If you're tracking to the leading edge of the sphere, then you need to know where that leading edge is. Whereas they're saying, well, let's say Anthony argues that potentially on a clearer day you might see to that line if you could see on an infinitely clear day, which is essentially what you're saying with no atmosphere, right, Anthony? Well, essentially, Chris is pointing out that
when Nathan got it and I got it at the same time. I see your point.
Right.
So it's showing you the arbitrary point that your eye creates where the land meets the sky if it's a plane.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so either the
ball, that horizon has to be dropping away from you. There's no way that you could know that off of this display.
Right, so either the display is wrong or this is wrong. Which is it?
Good question. I don't know. And to be honest, I'm not sure that, because when I was asking questions to the aviation guy, Captain, I'm calling him because he's got a really long name. When I was asking him questions, he was answering, and I could tell that he was smiling whilst I was answering him. So I could tell that he wasn't being totally honest with me. I could tell he was trying to pull a fast one in my interpretation. So I'm not sure he's the right guy to ask anyway. But you make a valid point, and I don't know the answer, and I'd be guessing if I tried.
Yeah, but Anthony, remember after about, I don't know, an hour and a half or so, he basically came out and was just like, look, I'm in the air. I see the Earth as a sphere. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool. Well, I'm glad you got it.
It almost sounded like Jose just saying, I believe that's curvature. You know, that's it. That's where I stand, you know. But yeah, Chris, definitely a good point. And I was trying to think about that yesterday. Like, how could this be the actual? How could this be the horizon if the horizon is supposedly dropping away from you?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Hey, I gotta go, Anthony. If you have a show, if you do your Discord show later, I might try and join, but I gotta go for now.
Cool, man. Catch you in a bit. Yeah, Nathan, you brought up a good point there. What do you think?
I think it's an excellent point. I'm just on my hands and knees cleaning up a drink that my kid spilled everywhere.
In the absence of Nathan and his availability of time, I'll just say that if you listen back to the Hangout, what I'll do is I'll remove the Hangouts each day because I don't want loads of them filling up my video section. So if you do want to see it, download it before it goes because it does get replaced. But you can hear him. You can literally hear that he's smiling when I say, so when the nose is pointing up and it's being compensated for by the same amount of gap that's below the horizon, that's the reason why you're claiming horizon dip. But it's not horizon dip, it's nose tilting up that's giving you the perception that it's horizon dip. And you can tell that he's smirking. You can interpret that any way you wish.
Anthony, that's just because a lot of ballers find this pretty comedic.
Well, that's because a lot of ballers are not able to critically analyze evidence contrary to their opinion and are dicks.
Well, dude's a pilot, so
to just laugh.
Yeah, but he was smiling. He was a pilot that was smiling whilst answering me. I knew that he realised that I'd spotted the problem with what his assertion was. You might not have spotted it, and you might think I'm a dick because of it. But the fact that he was smiling tells me that he realises that I spotted it. So
We've got a new guest. Sorry to interrupt. Is Alexander? Have we said hello to you?
Yeah, yes, I'm here. I'm here. Wait a minute. I have to.
Good to have you.
Close the hangout.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I disconnected earlier. My connection dropped off. I just like to reiterate, if you guys don't even know the definition of entropy, you don't have a clue what you're talking about.
Oh, we're back on this, are we? So the question is still the same. Is it the case that not knowing mathematics for entropy changes that hot flows to cold always?
Entropy is defined via mathematics. That's where it comes from.
Sorry, no, I've defined it verbally on multiple occasions, as have other panel members. So we've defined it. And the consequence of the definition, hot flows to cold always, high pressure to low pressure, that will always occur. So if you've got gas pressure, it will disperse into a vacuum. That's the point of making it. Defining it mathematically makes no difference.
What about friction, Nathan?
We're talking about entropy.
Which way is the heat? Which way is the heat flowing in that situation?
Talking about entropy and space. So how does this prove that you can have gas pressure next to a vacuum?
It doesn't. It just shows
so it's a straw man. So it's a straw man. So it's a straw man.
You don't know what you're talking about.
So it's a straw man. I'm going to ask you again. Just admit it. Let's see if he's. Yesterday, you got a minor discretion out of Anthony and demanded a concession for it. Now, fact, this is a straw man. I want you to say, yes, it's a straw man, and have some intellectual honesty.
We're talking about entropy, Nathan.
Yeah.
So
in regards to whether or not you can have gas pressure next to a vacuum.
The definition, the pinnacle definition.
No, we're talking about whether or not you can have gas pressure next to a vacuum. Not the definition. The definition, hot flows to cold always, that's defining what entropy is. And that effect, that natural law...
Though,
shut up!
Hot doesn't always flow
shut up! That natural law would mean that space is fake. So, we've already asked, how does this establish that you can have gas pressure without a container? And you've already explained that it doesn't. Therefore, it is a straw man, and you won't admit it because you're intellectually dishonest. Right, Unorthodox?
No, I'm just trying to stay on topic here.
Yeah, on topic about space and whether or not you can have gas pressure without a container. Your ad hominem attack on me about whether or not I'm mathematically literate in entropy does not address whether or not you can have gas pressure without a container. It is ipso facto, therefore, a straw man.
Well,
I'm just talking about the definition. It's
no, you're talking about straw mans. You're bringing up a logical fallacy. To set fire to. So hold on, Arwen. Hold on.
Doesn't always flow to cold.
Hold on. You have bought a straw man here. Whether or not I understand the mathematics of entropy is a straw man that you're going to set fire
I'm not talking
to.
about the mathematics. I'm talking about the
Yeah, you are. You have said you don't know anything you're talking about. You don't understand the formulas. So now you're just lying. Now you're just lying.
To demonstrate your understanding of the formulas and how they operate.
Yeah, so that's a straw man. I'll say it again. That's a straw man. Whether or not I know the maths for it doesn't change that you can't have gas pressure without a container. You're talking over me. Your last chance. Talk over me again, I'll kick you out. So this does not change. The point is you can't have gas pressure without a container. My understanding of the mathematics does not change that point. It is therefore a straw man. So if you highlight that I don't know the maths, it doesn't mean that the point has therefore been won. You've just set fire to a straw man. And that's the bit I want you to have a little minor, tiny amount of intellectual honesty about here. That you've come with a straw man again.
No, I'm talking about something directly pertinent to what we're talking about here. I'm not talking about your understanding. I'm not done talking. I'm not done talking. Don't interrupt me. I just about got kicked because I'm interrupting people. Let me finish my point. I'm not talking about your understanding of the mathematics. I'm not asking you to use the mathematics. I'm just saying, give me the units. Speed is distance.
Oh, so I'm not asking you for the mathematics. I'm not asking you for the units. Now I'm asking you to give me the units.
Wow, unorthodox. You are retarded, bro. I'm not
So you are
asking
asking for the units.
I'm just
So you are
asking
asking for the maths.
Are you kidding?
So you are asking for the units. You are asking for the maths. This is a straw man.
Do you even understand what you're saying when you speak? No. Unorthodox?
So this is a straw man.
What's the problem with what I'm saying?
So simple. It's so simple that we can spend hours talking around.
I'm just going to take a vote.
Not
Who votes we kick him?
Simple.
Who votes we kick him? He's just an asshole. He's literally just said
look it
in the
up.
same. He's used double speak in the same breath. So he said, "I'm not asking you for the formulas. I'm not asking you for the maths. I just want you to give me the maths for it." So he's literally double speaking in one sentence. At this point, he's got so little to offer. I'm tempted to kick him. What do you think?
I did it.
He's been doing it since he came in here. First thing he said when we gave him the definition of entropy, oh, well, do you know the math behind the entropy? And we say we don't care about the math. Oh, but it's about the definition. I mean, this dude has no idea what he's talking about.
I tell you what we should do is, I don't think we should kick him just yet. I think what we should do is offer him an option. I think we should say to him, explain how you don't realize that there is a contradiction in the Coriolis argument for yesterday, and we'll tell you the maths.
He's already gone, but seriously, he just said no. Hot doesn't always flow to cold.
I honestly think the guy is deliberately sent in here by a demon inside his head to obfuscate points no matter what. That's what I honestly
think. You're right, Riley. I think you're right.
I don't think that's the case. I think what's happening is when he comes in and says, yeah, me and my girlfriend, we joke about how bad this makes me look as I'm talking with you lowlives who are stupid. And the reality is the complete converse of that. He, in this arena, is the retard. He has no vague clue what he's talking about and double speaks his way through the standard rhetoric. That's all he can do. He's got the standard rhetoric. He might even know it. Maybe he can repeat it perfectly sometimes, but it doesn't make the standard rhetoric work when you have us picking it apart and pointing out the fallacious parts of the argument. And when we point them out, he doesn't understand the explanation of the fallacious parts of the argument. All he can do is repeat it, like a parrot, because that's what he's been trained to be in school. A parrot. Just parrot it. And if you get challenged, parrot it again, because that's what he's got. Just repeat it. Oh, it's been challenged. Don't address what's been challenged. That would require some degree of intelligence. Just repeat.
He's like conspiracy cats. I don't think conspiracy cats can get past this stuff either, and that's why he has to stay away. It's not because Nathan's horrible or grumpy or whatever. It's because he knows he can't, as a teacher, he can't address it. But he won't admit that he can't address it. He has to blame Nathan because of his own failures.
Yeah, I like it when that happens, though. Yeah, you blame me, conspiracy cats. You blame me for your failure. I'll quote you when I disprove space. Without the balloon, there is no pressure. So, do we have a balloon around Earth? No, we've got a vacuum. So, according to conspiracy cats, without that membrane, without that balloon, without something to press upon, there's no gas pressure. But yet we do have gas pressure. So conspiracy cats might want to blame me for his failures. I'll quote him in my success when debunking space. So thanks, conspiracy cats. While you might not like me, I applaud your debunking of space.
But what he actually does, Nathan, is he realizes his audience is stupid and will believe anything he says because he's a teacher. So he runs with his assertion anyway, regardless of its truth. Then you got a question, well, what's wrong? Who's wrong here? Is it right that he carries on pushing his narrative when he realizes he can't defend it? Or is Nathan actually wrong originally for saying that he debunks space? And if you think that space can exist the way that Conspiracy Cats tells you, great. Well, everybody else realizes it can't, because you can't have a gas pressure without a container.
Yeah, and he knows it.
He does.
They're just Wiggles. But they
Wiggles
just
doesn't
rinse
know
and
his own
repeat.
name.
Rinse and repeat. That's all they can do. Just say the same thing again, because it must be true. I've been taught it. So the fact that you have a rebuttal, well, just repeat the same thing again.
I think they engage in Muppet vision.
I like it. I like holding their toes to the fire. There's certain subjects, like the Coriolis, where they will have gone out and got the double speak explanation. And in their mind, when they got it, they went, oh, okay, that makes sense then. But when they come here and go round and round in circles with one reference frame, two reference frames, one reference frame, two reference frames, it's got to mess with their heads. Well, I like that. It's like, yeah, good. Keep double speaking around the nonsense contradiction, telling me it's not a contradiction, and then telling me we've got 1,500-mile-an-hour planes. It's like, oh, the tables have turned then. Back in the day when everyone held true to the AE map and was saying, oh, yeah, this is the world. Not that I ever did that. But flat earthers, hey, Paul. Oh, same guy, sorry. Yeah, when flat earthers was doing that, and they were like, oh, show us the 1,500-mile-an-hour planes that makes this part on this map strawman work. Oh, right. Let's see the 1,500-mile-an-hour planes that work with your Coriolis effect. Seems a bit dumb now, doesn't it, your assertion, Zinder, if you're watching? You think you've got 1,500-mile-an-hour planes? What an idiot.
Yeah, I just flew to Phoenix, and I definitely was not moving at 1,500 miles per hour. So
you'd have to repeat that again, Chocolate.
But I just flew to Phoenix, and I'm pretty sure I was not moving at 1,500 miles per hour due to the rotation of the Earth. Because at that point, maybe I should have gotten to Phoenix in, I don't know, an hour, maybe less.
Yeah, that was priceless yesterday. Zinder's like, oh no, I can't show you a 1,500-mile-an-hour plane because obviously when the plane goes up in the air and you're watching it, well, you can't prove that. It's just happening as it is. It's like, oh yeah, well, where's the passengers that are taking these really stupidly double supersonic flights? They're not real, right? They don't happen. That doesn't happen. The Earth doesn't turn underneath the planes. There are not exhibits of the Coriolis effect demonstrated by planes.
Yeah, let's just remind people the contradiction, right? Coriolis force, they claim that the atmosphere sticks to the Earth. They need that because basically that's... Stop it. That's the explanation for why planes don't go faster in east to west flight. So they need it to be that way. But if that's the case, then they can't have Coriolis. So it's a direct contradiction, and they need to have it both ways. They'll never, ever, ever concede the point, and they will fight it to the bitter end, which is why George comes in and fights it vehemently. But it's also the reason why Idiot yesterday did. And then he comes in today saying, if you don't know the maths, then you can't do entropy. Who cares about maths? Maths is not causative. It's descriptive by nature. His point is invalid, but he worships maths. Maths is his god. That's the problem.
Well, it was just a straw man. So the understanding of the mathematics of entropy does not change that you cannot have gas pressure without a container. And when we get to the point, dragging them kicking and screaming like Alan earlier, to the point where we say, well, what's the pressure pressing upon at the top? Well, who cares about the mathematics at that point? Well, it's not pressing on anything. It's going to be dispersing into the vacuum. That's entropy. That's the point. It doesn't need mathematics. It would be instantaneous, according to an MIT professor. So the MIT guy says entropy would have an instantaneous dispersion of the gas pressure into the container. The vacuum would be filled by the gas. Well, that's completely in contradiction to what they claim is happening in the heliocentric model. You've got this ball with gas on the outside, magically hanging in a vacuum of space. Total nonsense. Fake medium. You can't have gas pressure next to a vacuum. That's nonsense. Oh, right. So, did I need maths there? Sorry. Did anybody need the mathematics in the audience to understand that? Oh, right. Nobody needed the maths to understand that. Right. The gas would disperse. No maths needed. Straw man, basically.
Yeah, the problem with applying maths is that you can make anything appear to be credible if you apply a little bit of maths, because you only need the wrong symbol in the wrong place for a genius to spot it. But if you've planted it intentionally to make it look like that way, because you need to have these maths, then unless you're a genius to spot exactly where the mistake is, and even if you did, they would never admit it because, well, maths is their king.
Well, I keep plugging this, but go and check out how Einstein made the Earth turn on Jeranism channel. In that, he explains, or he's reading Robertson Genesis' work, but he's explaining how the transform equations work, and they're squaring a circle. But the net result of transform equations, you end up with things like, as you get closer to the speed of light, your physicality contracts. You know, the two are the inverse opposite of each other, but it's only born out of a mathematical equation that's been used to square a circle. I have to go on mute.
So he's got baby issues in background. I've got Tilly issues in my background. For some reason, she wants to play. She's been quiet all morning, minding her own business, being a very good girl. And now I start talking, and she's barking and meowing and basically saying, "Play with me, I'm awake. Go to sleep."
Got 5 of the panel members.
So,
all right. So
it just seems funny to me. Yeah.
Can I try to explain how thermodynamics?
Yeah, just turn you up a bit. Go ahead.
Itself out. Okay. All right. So, quantum eraser explains thermodynamics as a room that gets messier. The mess is what's considered entropy. The cup of water in the room that evaporates away has achieved entropy or a higher state of disorder. But
why
it's
do you
just
say
a
higher
part.
state?
Hold on, Anthony. Just let him get to the end.
Because okay. So the cup of water in the room that evaporates away has achieved entropy or a higher state of disorder because water is more disordered as a gas. You understand that?
No, I wouldn't say it's achieved a high state of disorder. I'd just say
Okay,
it's
why
changed
not?
form temporarily. I don't see why why you would class it as disorder.
Well, if it's in a room that's getting messier and the water has gone into a gas and become in a higher state of disorder in this room that's a closed system, it's never going to come back to water, right? It's just going to stay in this state because heat, it's never going to allow it to become water again.
Well, that's assuming a constant temperature that's sufficient
if
to
a
make the
room is
water
achieving
evaporate.
entropy, if you're in a closed system and the room is achieving entropy, heat is going to be released. That's unusable. So everything is not going to be able to come back down from that state.
Well, yeah, right? Until it reaches equilibrium. So if for the sake of argument, all of the heat of the room is dissipated and you're at 19 degrees in the room, then you're not necessarily going to see all of the water evaporate. But quite the converse, if all the heat's dissipated into the room or dissipated away from the room and you end up at -1, well, it ain't turning into gas then, is it?
Right, and so, but it's going to die. Everything is going to be in equilibrium. It's going to be a death in the room where nothing else, there's going to be no more energy in the room. Usable
I like
energy.
your story. I like your
Right?
story. Have you got anything like science-wise or like to cite that as a state of disorder?
Because if not my explanation, this is Quantum Eraser's explanation. He explains a room that gets messier, and as it gets messier, it's never going to come back from that mess. It's never going to reach a lesser entropic state.
I understand, but my question is to do with the state of water being in a state of less entropy because it's evaporated. That's the bit I don't think in context, and I'm just wondering if you've got something to support that assertion.
Well, as energy is used, in what context? If you're talking about in a real world context, then you can explain everything in that way because it's happening on Earth and the sun is causing things to happen. But as far as thermodynamics and the laws, when you're creating a test, you can specify the rules of the test. So in Quantum Eraser's explanation, he is in a room where everything gets messier. So he can use that room because the laws of thermodynamics allows you to isolate the test in that room. So I cannot then say, now, wait a minute, that water became a cloud, and now I can't leave that room because the test has been limited to that room. And that's why we accept thermodynamics and the higher entropy it creates.
Yeah,
Sure,
but
All right.
it's not. It's not. Sorry, I've just got to make one correction. So it's not a test being performed. It's just a way of explaining a natural law. So there's no test that can validate this, basically.
Yes. Okay. So well, can I just continue? Then?
Yeah.
Well, hang on. No, not really. Because
he hasn't made his point yet. Hold on, Anthony.
You don't want me to make my point.
Exactly. He hasn't made his point yet.
Your lawyer speak because you want to understand. You want to see how much I understand.
Okay, both of you, calm down. Both of you. It's gonna. Hold on. I don't want it to lose track and focus of the point itself. He's got this far. Let him make the point. He hasn't actually made a point yet.
All right. Quantum Eraser explains thermodynamics as a room that gets messier. The mess is what's considered entropy. The cup of water in the room that evaporates away has achieved entropy or a higher state of disorder. But it's just a parlor trick because thermodynamics, as accepted, are seen as natural laws. Because although everything that has happened in the room is natural, I'm not allowed to leave the room that is breaking down. The room is a universe or a closed system. If I could leave this room, I could point out that the evaporated water that came from the cup in this room is now a cloud in the sky and will come down as water, which is in a lesser state of disorder than the cloud it came from. But the laws don't allow me to go beyond the boundaries of the experiment. Nathan has claimed that space is fake because it violates the laws of thermodynamics. You can't have gas pressure without a container.
Hello, Demon. Just here to troll and play music. Excellent stuff.
Right, struck. Right, can I respond?
All right. No. Nathan has claimed that space is fake because it violates the laws of thermodynamics. You can't have gas pressure without a container, which makes sense to me. We don't know what the sky is. But this is where the problem is. The laws of thermodynamics presuppose that Earth, the sky, and everything in it are achieving entropy, but only because of the breakdown that is happening in Quantum Eraser's room, not because we know what space is. For all we know, water, the clouds, and everything above us is an open system that has been there forever, keeping us in a state of equilibrium. So, if we know space is fake, how do we know what stars are? Why are we presupposing they achieve entropy? The only reason is because thermodynamics work on Earth as we know it, but that doesn't have to mean they work in space. All we know is space is fake. Thermodynamics cancels itself out by proving space is fake. So I am free to state that everything in the sky may not be achieving entropy. Everything there may have just been there forever.
I would agree because these are natural laws and they apply to the natural world. Well, if you're saying that there's a region that is incapable of testing, well, then you can't quantify it. So, yeah, you might find that there is a violation in the sky. Now, that's so true because that is precisely the standard we are laying down to the ballers who make that very assertion. So, you are free to make the assertion that the sky could be a vacuum, but then I'm going to ask you to quantify that by showing a violation of the second law of thermodynamics, which definitely hold true here.
Well, the thermodynamics don't hold true in space because we don't
How
know
do
what's
you
happening
know?
there, right?
Sorry, you're making this assumption.
I'm just saying we don't know.
Well, sorry, I can just take the same stance with you, Earth Flattener. Have you been to this region?
You should take this stance because I come from a place of not knowing. But when someone like Quantum Eraser says thermodynamics proves a creator, that doesn't make sense.
That's a different
because
argument.
We have always
That's a
been
different argument. We're talking. If you want to sidetrack onto that, that's fair enough. I understand, but that's not the argument you and I are currently involved in. We're talking about a region of the sky that none of us are going to. And when you got to the point where you said, "Well, I just don't know. It could be anything." Well, that's why I don't claim dome. I'm not making an assertion about what the sky is. And I can't because I don't know, and I'm willing to say that. But the people who do make a claim about what the sky is, they're the ones that would need to qualify it by violating the second law, which definitely holds true in the physical world where we are.
You're making a claim,
experience.
Nathan. You're making the claim that it doesn't exist. Thank you.
But it doesn't, because water is coming
Sorry,
back
that's
from a
called
state
an
of disorder.
argument. Sorry, just got to get Jose on that. That's called an argument from ignorance fallacy. So, Jose, are you saying unicorns don't exist? Prove they don't exist. Prove it right now, Jose.
No, I can't. You just moved the goal.
Excuse me. Prove they don't exist. You're saying they don't exist. Unicorns, according to you, don't exist. Prove they don't. You're making the claim.
I'll prove it.
You're
I'll
making
prove
the
it to you
claim.
right now.
You're making the claim they don't exist. So prove your claim that unicorns don't exist.
Okay. Am I ready to answer the question? I will prove you that they don't exist when you answer me the question that space doesn't exist. Can you prove it?
Yeah, that's my point. That's called an argument from ignorance fallacy. So
Then don't answer the question if you cannot answer.
Oh, right, I'm done, am I, Globehead? Yeah,
Can I respond
look
to
it up,
Earth Planet?
Jose. Look it up. Argument from ignorance fallacy. So to demand that I make you disprove something is a fallacy. So to say that I'm claiming space doesn't exist, therefore I must prove non-existence, is an argument from ignorance. Okay?
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that thermodynamics should not be seen as laws, and we should not take them because we don't know what space is. We're not that far yet.
Yeah,
They're
but it doesn't
natural
matter.
laws here.
Sorry, not knowing what something is so. Sorry, let me just get this straight. So you've now adopted Jose's argument, an argument from ignorance. So because we don't know what it is, it could potentially violate the second law. I don't care.
Yeah, that's fine. But it
Well,
doesn't mean
it doesn't
that it
change
does or
that the
doesn't.
laws hold true, though, Earth Flattener. That second law, it still holds true, regardless of whether or not it may or may not be violated by a region we're not going to. I couldn't care less. The second law still holds true. Entropy is real.
Then what you added in your housekeeping question, you're pushing this narrative, making people think that space doesn't exist because you want to push this little sector of science and the thermodynamic law, and you're telling people space doesn't exist. So anything related to space, you can throw it to the trash. Go ahead.
Jose,
it
what
doesn't.
evidence have you got for space?
Yeah, so you can prove that we can
I
have...
got no evidence for space. What
Well
evidence
then,
do you got
why?
for
So
space
asking
doesn't
me
seem
to
real?
prove non-existence, I'll say it a third time because Jose's dumb. He's become a baller and suddenly got very thick. That is an argument from ignorance fallacy. I cannot prove non-existence. So to say that I am claiming space is fake, to say I must prove non-existent space is an argument from ignorance. It's also a burden of proof reversal fallacy because you believe in space. So you better damn well prove it or I'll say it's fake and I don't need to disprove non-existence. Okay, Jose?
Okay, so this is an argument from let me tell you, I lost my words. Appeal to authority. You know about the laws of thermodynamics. You didn't invent it. You didn't figure them out. You didn't find out. You just learned it from an experienced person, from somebody, from a citation. Now I appeal to authority that space does exist because I have seen evidence. So you believe in the laws. I believe in the space. We are in the same boat, Nathan.
Sorry, what's your evidence?
Oh, what's your evidence that the law of thermodynamics? Have you make experiments yourself? Have you done it, or are you going by authority? What authority tells you it happened?
No, Jose. I've experienced it firsthand. Hot flows to cold always. Unless, of course...
Have you done this?
I hadn't quite finished, Jose. Unless, of course, you, who assert space, this violation of that law, can demonstrate an example, Jose, of that not happening.
Water
Hot
going
flows
into
to
a
cold.
cloud.
What's your observed phenomena, Nathan?
Sorry, I've just said. Hot flows to cold always. That will always happen. You will never show me an example of it not happening.
Okay, now let's go to the hypothesis.
It's not a hypothesis based. This is not scientific. It's a law.
Oh, okay.
A natural law. It happens always.
It happens every time you drink a cup of coffee and it gets cold. It happens every time you let the air out of a balloon. You experience it every day.
So what does this have to do with space?
Okay. Right. I'll explain.
I'm gonna agree. There's, you know what? I'm gonna say there's a barrier. There's a dome. There's the antecedent is a membrane to hold the air pressure in the air we breathe. Now let's talk about the pressure gradients. How can we evidence the pressure gradients? It exists because we can prove the air gradients exist. How can this happen? How can you prove to me
Jose?
how this works?
Yeah. So what, Jose?
So
Sorry, you don't seem to be.
We have a gradient. How do we have the gas pressure?
Yeah, he's already said. No.
So
Jose's just said we've got a dome. That's Jose's answer. Is that right, Jose? We've got a dome.
Oh, this. I'm just giving you your argument because you don't want to say it. You just held
When
it back.
when do we ever say we have a dome, Jose? How long you been coming here? When did we ever assert a dome?
Oh, you say a membrane, a container. I say a dome. It's the same thing. It's synonymous.
Sorry, no, Jose. I'll maybe say it slowly,
Wow.
just for you this once, because it's directly to you. There is a claim, Jose, that there is a region beyond where we experience called outer space. That claim comes from, guess who? Globeheads, not us. So that's step one. The claim that's being made. Space. Okay, Jose? So let's just get it clear. You, fresh meat, Globehead, have got a religious belief about a region called space that you've never been to. That's the claim. Now, in the face of that claim, not because I'm claiming we've got pictures from the dome, but in the face of your claim that there's a region of a vacuum, I say we have gas pressure. Now, the necessary antecedent is something to press upon. Now, I'm making no claims about what it's pressing on. I've got no clue. But what I do know is we've got this law, the second law of thermodynamics. And that is to say that if it was, as you claim, a vacuum, then the gas would disperse into the vacuum that you claim is outer space. Now, in that process, I need make no claim about what's up there. I'm not claiming I've got photos from up in the sky. You are. I'm not claiming there's a region we can travel through, and if we get close to the speed of light, my mass will contract. You are. I'm not claiming Earth is a ball in this region of a vacuum. You are. So us pointing out that we do have gas pressure, and there is a natural law that says that gas pressure would disperse into a vacuum, those bits are true facts that we can all agree on. Natural laws and gas pressure. Unless you can show otherwise. So if you can defy that law that we all experience and holds true always, then show it me. Because if you can't, you're left with a belief in a region called space that you can't go to and can't exist.
Puerto Rico doesn't
Water
exist
becomes
because
a
you haven't
gas.
been there. Thank you.
Water becomes a gas and then comes back down as water. But the only reason I can't state this is because the laws of thermodynamics limit me to that room where the entropy is happening. I cannot leave and then say the clouds.
I don't know what you're going on about with this room. The room is an example of...
It is an example, right, of a closed
Well, you're not limited
system
to an
because the
example. You can make
thermodynamics-
new ones. You can explain it however you like. I've not used a room. I've used a cup of coffee.
But ultimately, the entropy is that you are an enclosed system, whether it's the universe or the Earth or whatever it is. Ultimately, it has to be enclosed. It has to have a limit.
You don't. You can make that claim if you want to. I
That's
don't
what
make that claim, though,
thermodynamics
do
says.
I?
I don't believe any of this nonsense.
Why are you
That's
making? Why are you
thermodynamics.
making that claim then? I go out
Because
of my
that's what
way to
thermodynamics
avoid.
states, and you're standing on the side of thermodynamics.
No, the law of
You're saying it's a
thermodynamics
natural law.
holds true.
Except in water.
Sorry, it still holds true in water. Oh my god.
It doesn't.
Really?
Water
Okay,
comes
look,
back.
I'm going to have to round out the live show on that note.
Yeah,
I'm
you
starting
do
to get
that.
frustrated and
You're wrong.
annoyed. If you think the laws of thermodynamics don't apply to water, then okay, fine. No problem.
Water goes into a cloud and it comes back down as water.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
called the
it doesn't
hydrological
apply.
cycle. Okay, so what? What's your point?
A cloud is less energy
Yes,
than
I've
water.
just said.
I
Let's
think-
just round this out for the live audience for Earth Flattener. That's called the hydrological cycle. What's your point?
You can call it whatever you want. To me,
No,
that
it is the
defying
hydrological cycle. What's your point?
It's defying entropy is my point.
No, it's
We
not
are in a
defying
state of
entropy.
equilibrium.
It's a cycle. It's not defying the second law. It's a cycle.
Yes, it is.
Oh, really?
It's a cycle.
It's
Yes,
it's
a
just
cycle, but it
hand
defies
wave
entropy.
dismissal. You can call it whatever you like when I define what's actually happening when clouds form.
You're double speaking. You're using double speak. That's what you're doing.
No, sorry. Saying it's the hydrological cycle is not double speak.
That's what's happening.
Yeah, the hydrological cycle.
You're double speaking. You're like, yeah, it's a cycle, but no, it's going from higher to lower entropy, back to higher and back and forth. You can
Yeah,
call it a
that's
cycle.
called a cycle.
I call it a
That's called a
defiance of the
cycle.
thermodynamics.
Oh, really? Well, then you're wrong.
Okay. Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh, right?
Yeah, I've explained
Go
that
ask
it's a
your
cycle,
boss.
and
Go
you
ask your
keep
boss.
saying, no, it's going
Let's
back
see what
to its
answer
original
is.
state.
Very quantum eraser. Nuh-uh. Got
No,
it.
I'm not. I'm trying to explain it to you, and you've just said you can
You
call
were-
it whatever
you
you
explained
like.
it as a
Oh, now you're
cycle.
talking
That's not an
again.
explanation.
So, okay, maybe if I repeat it, I'll get an actual
Let me do
address
it
to
then,
it.
okay,
It's
dickhead?
called
Right, you know
the
how
hy-
the water cycle
Oh, and now Arwin's helping.
works?
Thanks, Arwin. I really need
know
your
how
help
it
right now.
works?
Desperate
It
for your help,
collects
Arwin.
dust,
Thank you.
and then
Thank you so much for your help,
doesn't
Arwin.
come down.
Thank you. I'm
Collects
trying to be
dust,
subtle with
exactly.
you.
Arwin, shut
Thank
up.
you,
That's right.
Arwin.
Without a dust,
Thank
the
you,
rain would
Arwin.
not come
Thanks.
down.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Arwin.
I agree.
Yeah, it's called a cycle, the hydrological cycle. So, what is your address to that? That I can
Well,
call
the
it what I
water-
like?
The water goes, it collects dust, just like Arwin said, and then it comes down on the earth, and earth just keeps cleansing itself, and it goes back into the ocean and back up into the sky, and trees release gases whenever they need more water. We are in a state of equilibrium. Thermodynamics is being defied by water.
No.
It's not a state of equilibrium.
It's
Yes,
a
it is.
It's in
cycle.
constant change. It's not an
He's not listening to me. It's not reaching equilibrium. It's a cycle. Are you ever going to address that you're wrong about this?
I don't think anybody knows. What are you talking
Sorry,
about? What are you
I'll
wrong
say it
about?
again. It's called the hydrological cycle. So maybe you can explain to me where in a cycle we reach equilibrium.
The entire earth as it is, it's...
Sorry,
in an
we're talking about a cup of
equilibrium, as in it's-
water, aren't we, Earth
But
Flattener?
Earth Flattener, we are just talking about water itself, right?
The cup of water in
everything-
your room
everything-
example,
everything
right,
goes
Earth
hand in
Flattener?
hand.
The cup of water that defies the second law of thermodynamics, according to you. That's what we're talking about. So,
Not in a room. Yeah, in a room it doesn't defy it because the room is in an enclosed system.
oh right. So in the room, you've got a, say it again, hydrological cycle occurring.
No.
Oh, so it would be a useful example of an equilibrium being reached then. Just an example.
well,
it's not the
a
law or the test. It's just an example.
Yes.
So when you compare that example of equilibrium to, fifth time, the hydrological cycle as a comparison that debunks the second law of thermodynamics, you think you've got a win there, do you?
With water, yes. Water.
Really?
I think water is keeping everything in a state of equilibrium and balance.
Sorry, do you not understand the difference between cycle and balance?
Well, cycle goes back and forth like water.
Oh,
and
right.
clouds,
So
right?
where
Back
you're
into
saying
water.
that the fact it goes back and forth defies the second law, it's actually just, sixth time, the hydrological cycle.
Yes.
Oh, so it doesn't defy the second law then?
It does, in that the thermodynamics states that everything is going into a higher state of entropy. So this cycle will not be able to continue according to the law of thermodynamics because everything is generating unusable heat.
but I don't think this is actually happening.
not
I
true.
think the hydrological cycle is keeping everything in balance.
It's not
You can say
generating
it's not
unusable
all you
heat.
want.
It's not. Things
just
are
nonsense.
changing as it
Yes,
goes.
things are
I've listened to
changing,
this
but
nonsense long
eventually
enough.
they're not going to be
I was
able.
going to round it out
Where
before I
does
got
that
annoyed,
come
but
from?
yeah, whatever.
Okay?
With that, I'll
Everything
say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this live debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you're watching this on either Nathan Oakley YouTube channel or Nathan Oakley 1980 YouTube channel, stay tuned as you will be privy to the after show. Once again, a massive thank you to all who joined in the live audience. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!